Teacher forces black student to play guitar to humiliate her, but when she starts, everyone stands up. Olivia Johnson felt her hands tremble as she held the guitar that Professor Michael had practically thrown at her. The silence in the classroom at St. Margaret's Academy was deafening, broken only by the sound of malicious whispers from classmates who already knew something was about to happen. "Since the young lady apparently knows so much about music, why don't you give us a demonstration?" said Professor Michael Peterson with a smile that didn't reach his eyes, crossing his arms and leaning against the desk. "Let's see. If this creativity you have in questioning my lessons translates into any real talent." The room was filled with high school seniors, all wearing the traditional uniform of the most prestigious private school in Portland. Olivia, at 17, felt every gaze fixed on her, some curious, others eagerly awaiting her humiliation. She knew exactly what the professor was doing. It wasn't the first time he'd tried to embarrass her publicly, but this time he'd gone too far. It had all started half an hour earlier, when Olivia dared to disagree with Professor Michael's analysis of American musical influences. She had timidly raised her hand to suggest that he was completely ignoring the contributions of black artists in shaping contemporary American music. The professor had stopped speaking, slowly turned to her, and asked if she thought she knew more about music than someone who had studied at European conservatories. "No, Professor," she had replied, her voice steady despite her racing heart. "But I believe the history of American music can't be told without acknowledging artists like Duke Ellington, Louis Armstrong, Billie Holiday." The silence that followed was uncomfortable. Olivia could see Professor Michael clenching his fists, his face turning slightly red. She knew she'd touched a nerve, but hadn't expected him to react so drastically. Now, with the guitar in her hands and the entire class waiting, Olivia took a deep breath. Her friends Samantha and Jennifer watched her with worried expressions from the second row. She recognized that guitar. It was the one the professor occasionally used in class, a basic instrument with worn strings and questionable tuning. "We're waiting," said the professor, conspicuously checking his watch. Or perhaps the young lady would prefer to admit that talking is easier than proving competence. Olivia felt a wave of heat rise up her neck. She knew how to play the guitar. She had taught herself by watching videos online and practicing on a borrowed neighbor's guitar. But she had never played in public, let alone under such humiliating circumstances. The professor clearly expected her to fail, to embarrass herself in front of everyone. For a moment, she considered simply handing the instrument back and sitting down. It would be easier, less risky. But then she remembered her grandmother Margaret's words. "My dear, when they try to belittle you, you show them what you're made of." Not out of anger, but out of self-respect. Olivia adjusted the guitar in her lap, quickly tested the strings, and began tuning the instrument. She could feel the growing impatience in the room, some classmates already snickering, assuming she was just stalling. Professor Michael drummed his fingers on the desk, clearly pleased by her visible discomfort. But Olivia wasn't stalling. She was preparing for something that would change not just this moment, but the entire course of her life. When she finished tuning the guitar, she looked directly at Professor Michael. There was something different in her eyes now, a determination he hadn't noticed before. For a moment, a pang of uncertainty crossed his mind, but he quickly pushed the feeling away. "I'll play Song of the Spirits by Chet Atkins and Leonard Cohen," said Olivia, her voice echoing clearly through the silent room. Some students exchanged glances, recognizing the name of the song. It was a complex composition known for its technical difficulty and harmonic richness. Professor Michael raised an eyebrow, clearly surprised by her choice. He had expected her to attempt something simple, perhaps a basic chord he could easily criticize. Olivia positioned her fingers on the neck of the guitar and began to play. The first chords filled the room with a harmonic richness no one had anticipated. Olivia wasn't just playing the notes. She was interpreting the music with a sensitivity that even surprised herself. Her fingers danced across the strings with a natural fluidity, creating nuances and embellishments that showed not only technical skill, but a deep understanding of the soul of American music. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps those of us just starting out. Now continuing. Professor Michael felt the blood drain from his face. What was happening wasn't part of his plan. The girl he had intended to humiliate was playing with a mastery that he, with all his formal training, reluctantly respected. Even more unsettling was the reaction of the room. The silence had shifted from malicious expectation to genuine admiration. Olivia kept playing, losing herself in the music. It was as if all those years of solitary practice, the late nights, spent watching videos of great American guitarists, the entire weekends dedicated to understanding the subtleties of classical and popular guitar, all of it converged in that moment. She wasn't playing to prove something to the professor or her classmates anymore. She was playing because the music was flowing through her like never before. When she reached the most technically challenging part of the song, a passage requiring rapid position changes and complex chords, Olivia executed every note with impressive precision. It was then that Brittany Parker, one of the most popular students in the room, slowly rose from her desk. Brittany's gesture acted like a trigger. One by one, other students began to stand as well. First came Ryan, the captain of the school's soccer team, then Madison and Anna Grace, the twins known for their sharp critical sense. Within seconds, the entire room was on their feet in a silent ovation, respecting the music still flowing. Professor Michael stood frozen. His attempt at humiliation had turned into something completely beyond his control. He looked at the standing students, at the girl who kept playing as if nothing else in the world existed, and felt a confusing mix of anger, surprise, and, reluctantly, respect. When Olivia finished the song with the last resonant chords, the room erupted in applause. These weren't polite or obligatory claps, they were genuine, emotional, coming from young people who had just witnessed something extraordinary. Olivia looked up as if waking from a trance. She saw all her classmates standing, applauding, smiling, some with tears in their eyes. Her gaze met Professor Michael's, who was still standing behind his desk with an expression she couldn't decipher. "Thank you," she said simply, handing the guitar back to the professor. But Professor Michael didn't reach out to take. He was looking at Olivia as if seeing her for the first time, and perhaps he truly was. From that moment on, Olivia Johnson's life would never be the same. What she didn't know was that the impromptu performance had been secretly filmed by a classmate and was already being shared on social media. Nor did she imagine that among the silent audience was someone who would completely change the course of her life. But for now, all that mattered was the respectful silence that followed the applause and the feeling that, for a few minutes, she had been seen exactly as she was, a talented young woman who deserved respect. Professor Michael finally reached out to take the guitar, but his next words surprised the entire class. "Where did you learn to play like that?" The question came in a different tone, without the earlier arrogance. There was genuine curiosity, and perhaps even a hint of humility. "By myself," Olivia replied, still standing by the professor's desk. "Mostly online and a lot of practice." "By yourself," the professor repeated, incredulous. "That's not possible. That technique, that interpretation, someone must have taught you." Olivia shook her head slowly. The truth was more complex than a simple answer could explain, but she wasn't willing to share her personal story with someone who had tried to humiliate her just minutes before. "May I sit down?" she asked. Professor Michael nodded, still processing what had happened. Olivia returned to her desk, where her friends Samantha and Jennifer greeted her with excited whispers of congratulations and admiration. The rest of the class passed in an odd atmosphere. Professor Michael tried to resume the planned lesson, but it was clear that everyone, including himself, was still digesting what had occurred. The students looked at Olivia with newfound respect, and she felt a mix of satisfaction and unease. When the bell rang, signaling the end of class, the students began gathering their things. Olivia was putting away her notebooks when she heard the professor's voice. "Olivia, could you stay for a moment?" She glanced at her friends, who gave her questioning looks. Olivia motioned for them to go ahead and approached the professor's desk. Professor Michael began, then paused as if searching for the right words. "I'd like to apologize. What I did was inappropriate. and you didn't deserve to be put in that situation. Olivia studied him carefully. There was sincerity in his voice, but also something else, a restlessness she couldn't quite place. "Why did you do it?" she asked directly. Professor Michael sighed and sat in his chair. For a moment he seemed older, more tired. "Because when you questioned my lesson, I felt threatened, and I reacted badly, very badly." Threatened by a 17-year-old student? Threatened by someone who clearly knows far more about American music than I realized, and who had the courage to point out the gaps in my knowledge. Olivia was surprised by the honesty of his answer. She had expected empty apologies or excuses, not such a direct admission. "Where did you really learn to play like that?" he asked again. "And please be honest with me. What I saw there isn't just the result of online videos." Olivia hesitated. The truth was complicated and personal, tied to her family history and circumstances she preferred to keep private. But there was something in the professor's expression that made her consider trusting him. "My grandfather played guitar," she finally said. "He passed away when I was 12, but before that, during the few times we visited, he showed me a few things. They weren't formal lessons, but he taught me to listen to the music, not just play the notes. And after that, I kept going on my own. I borrowed a neighbor's guitar and spent hours practicing. I watched hundreds of videos, read everything I could find about classical and popular American guitar. But most of all, I tried to understand what my grandfather meant about listening to music." Professor Michael nodded slowly. There was something in Olivia's story that moved him unexpectedly. "Do you have your own guitar?" "No," she admitted. "The neighbor moved away a few months ago, so now I only play when I can borrow one." "And you still maintain this level?" "I practice fingerings without the instrument, and I study music theory whenever I can." The professor fell silent for a long moment, seeming to weigh something important. "Olivia, what do you plan to do after graduation?" The question caught her off guard. She wasn't used to adults, especially teachers, showing genuine interest in her future plans. "I don't know," she answered honestly. "My mother wants me to study medicine or law, something that guarantees financial stability. Music isn't considered a viable option at home." "But is it what you want to do?" Olivia looked out the classroom window, watching other students in the courtyard, chatting and laughing carefree. She rarely allowed herself to dream of a future in music, knowing her family's financial struggles and her mother's practical expectations. "I don't know if what I want matters," she finally said. "It does," Professor Michael replied with a conviction that surprised her. "And after what I saw today, I can assure you, you have the potential to go far in music." Olivia eyed him skeptically. Half an hour earlier, he'd tried to humiliate her publicly. Now he was offering encouragement. The sudden shift left her confused. "Why are you saying this?" "Because I recognize talent when I see it, and because maybe it's time for me to learn a few things about American music, from someone who clearly understands far more than I do." Before Olivia could respond, the classroom door opened, and the academic coordinator, Dr. Margaret Williams, hurried in. "Professor Michael, I need to speak with you urgently," she said, looking flustered. "And Olivia, you should stay too, please." Olivia and the professor exchanged glances, both sensing something significant was happening. "What's going on?" asked Professor Michael. "The video," the coordinator said, holding up a tablet. "Olivia's performance is going viral on social media. It already has over 50,000 views and is growing fast." Olivia felt her stomach drop. "What video?" The coordinator turned the tablet so they could see. On the screen was a video clearly filmed inside the classroom, showing Olivia playing guitar, while her classmates stood in admiration. "Who filmed this?" Professor Michael asked, looking as surprised as Olivia. "We're still looking into it, but that's not the main concern right now," Dr. Margaret said. "Olivia, you're getting messages from music producers, journalists, even some record labels. Your school email is flooded." Olivia was speechless. The idea that her music had reached so many people was both thrilling and terrifying. "Is this good or bad?" she asked weakly. It depends on how you want to handle it, the coordinator replied. But I should warn you, reporters are already calling the school for interviews. Professor Michael looked at Olivia, who seemed in shock. He remembered his own youth, dreaming of musical recognition, and felt a pang of something like envy or nostalgia. Olivia, you need to talk to your parents about this, the coordinator said, and decide how you want to proceed. This could open many doors, but it also brings responsibilities and pressures you'll need to be ready for. Can I see the messages? Asked Olivia timidly. The coordinator handed her the tablet. As Olivia scrolled through dozens of emails and messages, her eyes widened. There were invitations to auditions, offers for private lessons, interview, requests, and even a message from a music producer known for working with big names in contemporary American music. I can't believe this, she murmured. Believe it, said Professor Michael. And now you need to decide what to do with this opportunity. But I'm not ready for this, protested Olivia. I'm just a student who plays guitar as a hobby. What I saw today wasn't a hobby, the professor countered. It was genuine art, and the audience recognized it. The coordinator glanced at her watch. Olivia, I suggest you go home and talk to your family. Tomorrow, we can meet to discuss how to proceed. Professor Michael, I need to speak with you about the protocols for situations like this. Olivia nodded, still dazed. She grabbed her backpack and headed for the door, but stopped before leaving. Professor Michael, she said, thank you for the chance to play today. Even if it wasn't offered with the best intentions, I'm the Professor looked at her with a complicated expression. Olivia, I think I'm the one who should be thanking you. You taught me an important lesson today. Olivia smiled for the first time since everything had started and left the room. As she walked through the school hallways, she could hear whispers and see curious glances from other students. Apparently, the news was spreading fast. Samantha and Jennifer were waiting for her at the main gate, eager for details about her. Talk with the professor. So, asked Samantha as Olivia approached. What did he want? It's a long story, Olivia replied. Do you have time for coffee? The three friends headed to the diner across from the school, a small spot popular with students. As they walked, Olivia told them about the viral video and the messages she'd been receiving. You're going to be famous, Jennifer exclaimed, excitedly. I don't know if that's what I want, Olivia admitted, and my mom will freak out when she finds out. Why? Asked Samantha. Because she's always made it clear that music isn't a serious career. To her, I should focus on studies that guarantee a stable financial future. The three sat at a corner table in the diner, and Olivia showed them some of the messages she'd received on the coordinator's tablet. Samantha and Jennifer were impressed by the number and quality of the interested contacts. Olivia, do you realize this could be the chance of a lifetime? Samantha said seriously. Or it could be a distraction that messes up my studies and disappoints my family, Olivia countered. Your mom will understand when she sees the opportunities coming your way, Jennifer said optimistically. Olivia shook her head. You don't know my mom like I do. To her, music is a waste of time, always has been. The conversation was interrupted by other students from school who recognized Olivia and wanted to congratulate her on her performance. For a few minutes, she felt like a minor local celebrity, which was both flattering and uncomfortable. When she finally managed to break free from the attention, Olivia checked the time and realized she needed to get home. Her mother would be back from work soon, and she wanted to be there to explain the situation before Linda Johnson found out from someone else. Wish me luck, she told her friends as she said goodbye. You don't need luck, Samantha replied. You have talent. Now you just need the courage to use it. The bus ride home gave Olivia time to think about the day's events. In the morning, she was just another junior, worried about college applications and the future. Now, just a few hours later, she was being sought after by music professionals and had a viral video on social media. The house where Olivia lived with her mother was in a lower middle-class neighborhood, about 40 minutes from school. It was a small two-story home they rented after selling their own house to pay off debts left by Olivia's father, who had abandoned the family when she was 14. Olivia climbed the stairs to the small apartment on the second floor, took off her shoes at the entrance, and went straight to her room. She needed to gather her thoughts before the inevitable conversation with her mother. Sitting on the bed, she opened the school laptop she had borrowed and checked her personal email. To her surprise, there were messages there too. Apparently, someone had managed to find her full contact information. Among them, one stood out. It was from Helen Carter, a music producer known for working with emerging artists in contemporary American music. "Dear Olivia, I saw your video and was impressed by your talent. I'd love to talk about some opportunities that might interest you. Please reach out when you can. Helen Carter, Harmony Productions." Olivia stared at the message, her heart racing. Helen Carter was a name she recognized. She'd read about her in music magazines and knew she had discovered several artists who were now major names in the industry. The sound of the key in the front door snapped her back to reality. Her mother was home. "Olivia," called Linda Johnson from downstairs. "I'm up here, Mom," she replied, quickly closing the laptop. "Come down. I need to talk to you." Her mother's tone suggested she already knew something. Olivia walked downstairs slowly, bracing herself for a difficult conversation. Linda Johnson was in the kitchen, still wearing her nurse's uniform from the hospital where she worked. At 45, she looked tired but determined, the result of years raising a daughter alone while working double shifts to keep the household afloat. "Sit down," Linda said, pointing to one of the chairs at the small kitchen table. "I need to understand what happened at school today. How did you find out?" Olivia asked as she sat. "Mrs. Rose called me at the hospital. She saw a video of you playing guitar on social media. Care to explain?" Olivia took a deep breath and recounted the day's events, from the argument in class to the messages she'd been receiving. Linda listened in silence, her expression growing more concerned. "And you think this is a good thing?" Linda asked when Olivia finished. "I don't know, Mum. It could be an opportunity." "An opportunity for what, Olivia? To throw your education away chasing an impossible dream? But Mum, you haven't even seen the messages I'm getting. These are serious people, respected producers." "Olivia, I've been through this before," Linda interrupted, her voice rising. "Your father dreamed of being a musician too. You know where that got us? He abandoned responsibility, abandoned this family, abandoned you, and I was left alone to raise a child and pay the bills. This is different, Mom. I'm not going to abandon anyone." "It's not different," Linda snapped, slamming her hand on the table. "Music doesn't pay the bills, it doesn't secure the future. It doesn't give stability. You turn 18 next month. You need to apply to college, get into a serious program, build a real career." Olivia felt tears burning in her eyes. She had expected this reaction from her mother, but had hoped that maybe, just this once, Linda could see the possibilities beyond her own fears. What if I can make money with music? What if it's a real career? And what if you don't succeed? What if in 2 years you're broke, without a degree, without any prospects? Who's going to take care of you? Me, on my nurse's salary. The silence that followed was heavy. Olivia understood her mother's fears, but felt a deep frustration at not being understood. "Mom, just give me a chance. Let me at least talk to these people, see what they have to offer." "For what? To fill your head with illusions? Olivia, you're smart. You have excellent grades. You could study medicine, law, engineering. Why throw all that away?" "I'm not throwing it away. I'm following something I love, something I might actually be really good at." "You're good at many things, but not everything we're good at can become a career." Linda stood up and began preparing dinner, signaling she considered the conversation over. Olivia remained seated at the table, watching her mother and searching for words that could break through the wall of fear and worry Linda had built. "Mum," she finally said, "I'm turning 18. Can't I at least have the right to choose my own path?" Linda stopped chopping onions and turned to her daughter. There were tears in her eyes too. "Of course you can, but I also have the right not to fund a choice I think will hurt you. If you want to pursue music, you'll have to do it on your own. I won't help." The statement hit Olivia like a punch to the gut. She knew her mother meant it. Linda was a woman of her word, always keeping her promises for better or worse. "Fine," Olivia said, standing up from the table. "Then I'll do it on my own." Olivia, don't be stubborn. You have no idea how cruel the world is to people chasing impossible dreams. Maybe it's not impossible, Mom. Maybe you're just too scared to see the possibilities. Possibilities? Linda laughed bitterly. Your father used to talk about possibilities too. Know where he is now? Playing in third-rate bars when he gets work, drinking when he doesn't, and gone for 3 years. I'm not my father, Olivia said firmly. No, you're not. You're better than him. That's exactly why you can't repeat his mistakes. Olivia went up to her room, emotionally drained. The conversation had gone exactly as she expected, but that didn't make it any less painful. She flopped onto her bed and stared at the ceiling, trying to process everything. Her phone buzzed with a text. It was from an unknown number. Hi, Olivia. This is Marina, assistant producer for Helen Carter. We saw your video and would love to talk with you. Are you available for a meeting tomorrow afternoon? This could really change your life. Olivia stared at the message for a long time. Here was the opportunity that could be the start of everything, but also the cause of a permanent rift with her mother. She typed a reply. Yes, I'm interested. Where and what time? The response came almost immediately. Great. 3 p.m. at the Harmony. Productions office in Williamsburg. Address 456 Harmony Street. We can't wait to meet you. Olivia saved the contact and the address. Tomorrow she'd skip her last class to go to the meeting. It would be the first time she'd ever skipped school for anything other than illness, but she knew this might be a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. The rest of the evening passed in silence at home. Linda made dinner and called Olivia to eat, but their conversation was minimal and tense. Both were processing the argument and its implications. After dinner, Olivia returned to her room and spent hours researching Helen Carter and Harmony Productions. What she found was impressive. Helen had worked with some of the most respected names in contemporary American music and had a solid reputation for discovering and developing new talent. She had also researched music contracts, copyrights, and musical careers in the US. The more she read, the more she realized how little she knew about the music industry. But she also saw there was a lot of potential for someone with talent and determination. Around midnight, she finally managed to fall asleep, dreaming of stages, audiences, and music. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot, as we're just starting out. Now continuing. The next morning, Olivia woke up with renewed determination. She got ready for school as usual, but packed a more formal change of clothes in her backpack for the afternoon meeting. The mood at the breakfast table remained tense. Linda prepared the usual coffee and toast, but avoided looking directly at her daughter. Mom, Olivia finally said, I have a meeting this afternoon with a music producer. Linda stopped stirring her coffee and looked at her daughter. Even after our talk yesterday? Especially after our talk yesterday. I need to understand what they're offering before making any decisions. Olivia, please don't do this. Mom, I need to do this for myself. Linda sighed deeply. If that's how you feel, then go, but don't expect my support when things go wrong. That's fine, Olivia replied, finishing her coffee. I understand your position, even if I don't agree with it. Arriving at school felt different from the day before. Several students greeted Olivia in the hallway, some asking for selfies, others questioning her about the viral video. She felt like a minor celebrity, which was strange and a little uncomfortable. In the first class math, Professor Robert Smith made a mention of the video and publicly congratulated Olivia. She thanked him, but noticed some classmates seemed bothered by the attention she was getting. During break, Samantha and Jennifer eagerly approached her for updates. So, how did the talk with your mum go? Samantha asked. Just as I expected. She's completely against it. And what are you going to do? Jennifer wanted to know. I have a meeting this afternoon with a producer. I'm skipping the last class. Seriously? Samantha exclaimed. That's amazing. It's risky, Olivia corrected, but I think I need to do it. At that moment, Brittany Parker approached the group. Brittany was one of the most popular girls at school, the daughter of an influential family in town, and rarely spoke to Olivia. Hi, Olivia, she said with a smile. Can I talk to you for a minute? Samantha and Jennifer exchanged surprised glances. Olivia motioned for them to leave and stayed alone with Brittany. "I wanted to congratulate you on your performance yesterday," Brittany said. "It was really impressive." "Thank you," Olivia replied cautiously. She and Brittany had always been polite but distant, and this sudden approach made her suspicious. "Look, my dad works in the entertainment industry. He saw your video and was very interested. He'd like to talk to you about some opportunities." "What kind of opportunities?" "He represents some artists and has connections with major record labels. He could open a lot of doors for you." Olivia studied Brittany carefully. There was something about the approach that didn't feel entirely sincere. "Why are you telling me this?" Brittany hesitated for a moment. "Because I think you have real talent and deserve opportunities, and because maybe we can help each other." "How so?" "My dad is always looking for new talent to represent. If you're interested, I can arrange a meeting. And who knows, maybe you can include me in some of the events you'll be participating in. I've always wanted to work in the arts too." Now Olivia understood. Brittany saw an opportunity to benefit from Olivia's sudden fame. It was typical of her, always looking for ways to be the center of attention. "Thanks for the offer, Brittany, but I already have some things lined up." "Are you sure?" My father has really good connections." "I'm sure, yes, but I appreciate the interest." Brittany forced a smile. "All right, if you change your mind, come find me." As Brittany walked away, Olivia reflected on how quickly people changed their behavior when they saw an opportunity. Brittany had never shown any interest in being her friend, but now that she saw a chance to benefit, she was offering help. The music class with Professor Michael was especially tense. He seemed to be trying to act normal, but there was an oddness in the air. Olivia noticed he looked at her differently, as if he was still processing the events of the previous day. "Today we'll discuss African influences in American music," the professor announced at the start of class. Olivia raised an eyebrow. That was exactly the topic that had sparked the argument the day before. She wondered if it was a coincidence or if the professor was trying to make some kind of amends. During the lesson, Professor Michael presented a far more comprehensive and respectful overview of African contributions to American music than he usually did. He mentioned artists he normally ignored and discussed the cultural significance of these influences in much greater depth. Several times, he looked directly at Olivia, as if seeking her approval or expecting her to comment. But Olivia chose to stay silent, still processing the sudden shift in the professor's approach. At the end of class, as students were leaving, Professor Michael called Olivia over again. "How are things with the video?" he asked. "Complicated," she answered honestly. "Do you want to talk about it?" Olivia hesitated. Part of her wanted to confide in someone who understood music, but another part still didn't fully trust the professor. "I have a meeting this afternoon with a producer," she finally said. "Which producer?" "Helen Carter from Harmony Productions." Professor Michael's eyes widened. "Helen Carter? She's highly respected in the industry. If she's interested in you, it's because she sees something truly special." "Do you know her?" "By reputation. She's discovered several major artists." "If I were you, I'd take this meeting very seriously." "I am, but my mother is against it." "Understandable. It's a risky field, especially for someone from a family with financial struggles." "But what if it's really a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity?" Professor Michael sat on the edge of his desk, seeming to carefully weigh his response. "Olivia, I'll be honest with you. I'm 42 years old, and I've spent my whole life dreaming of the recognition you achieved in a single day. Part of me envies your talent and the opportunities coming your way." The honesty of his confession surprised Olivia. "But another part of me, the part that's learned a few things from life, wants to give you some advice. If you're going to enter this world, go in with your eyes wide open. The music industry can be cruel, especially to young, talented people with no experience." "What do you mean?" "That you need to understand exactly what's being offered, what the terms are, what level of commitment they expect from you. And, most importantly, you need to be sure this is really what you want for your life." "How can I be sure?" "You can't. No one can be sure about the future. But you can make informed decisions based on what you know about yourself and your priorities." Olivia nodded, absorbing the advice. It was ironic that she was receiving more useful guidance from the professor, who had tried to humiliate her than from her own mother. "Professor Michael, can I ask you a personal question?" "Of course." "Why did you give up on music professionally?" The professor fell silent for a long moment, gazing out the classroom window. "Because I wasn't good enough," he finally said. "And because I didn't have the courage to persist when things got tough. I chose the security of being a teacher instead of risking everything for music." "Do you regret it?" "Every day," he admitted. "But I also know I might not have had what it took to succeed. You, on the other hand, you have something I never had." "What?" "Soul. When you play, you can feel the music coming from a very deep place. That can't be taught or learned. You either have it or you don't. And you do." Olivia felt warmth in her chest at the compliment. Coming from someone who understood music, those words carried special weight. "Thank you," she said sincerely. "Don't thank me. Just use that gift wisely." Olivia left the classroom with far more confidence than she had entered with. The conversation with Professor Michael had clarified some things in her mind and strengthened her determination to explore the opportunities that were arising. During lunch, she changed in the school bathroom, putting on a pair of dark dress, pants and a white blouse she had brought in her backpack. It wasn't completely formal attire, but it was the best she could manage on her limited budget. At 1:30 p.m., she took a bus to New York City. The trip to Williamsburg would take about an hour, giving her enough time to arrive a few minutes early. During the ride, Olivia mentally reviewed everything she had researched about Helen Carter and Harmony Productions. She also thought of questions she wanted to ask and tried to anticipate what kind of offers she might receive. Harmony Productions' office was in a modern building in Williamsburg, an area known for housing many creative businesses. Olivia arrived 15 minutes early and spent a few minutes walking around the block to calm her nerves. At 2:55 p.m., she entered the building and headed to the elevator. The office was on the 5th floor. When the elevator doors opened, she was met with a modern, welcoming space, its walls decorated with photos of artists and music awards. At the reception desk, a friendly young woman greeted her. "You must be Olivia. I'm Marina. We spoke over text. Helen is expecting you." Marina led her down a hallway, lined with several rooms, passing rehearsal studios where music could be heard playing. Finally, they stopped in front of a door with a plaque that read, "Helen Carter, Executive Producer." "Helen, Olivia is here," Marina announced, lightly knocking on the door. "Send her in," came the reply from inside. Olivia took a deep breath and entered the room. Helen Carter was a woman in her 50s, her graying hair pulled into a bun, wearing an elegant blazer. She rose from behind a desk cluttered with papers and sound equipment and extended her hand to Olivia. "Olivia, it's such a pleasure to meet you in person. I'm Helen. Have a seat. Let's talk." The office was professional, yet inviting. A guitar rested in one corner, framed photos of famous artists adorned the walls, and high-quality audio equipment filled the space. "First, I want to congratulate you on the performance I saw in the video," Helen said, sitting in an armchair across from Olivia. "It was truly impressive. You have a very special talent." "Thank you," Olivia replied, trying to steady her nerves. "Now tell me a little about yourself. How did you get started with music? What kind of training do you have?" Olivia shared her story. The grandfather who introduced her to music, the years of self-taught study, her passion for American music. Helen listened attentively, asking specific questions about her learning process and musical influences. "And what's your current situation? Where do you study? Any plans for the future?" "I'm in my junior year at St. Margaret's Academy. My mom wants me to apply for medical or law school. And you, what do you want?" "Music," Olivia answered without hesitation, "but my family doesn't support the idea." Helen nodded understandingly. It's a common situation. Many families see music as a hobby, not a career. But let me tell you something. After what I saw in your video, I can confidently say you have the potential for a solid career in music. "Really?" "Really. Your technique is impressive for someone self-taught, but more importantly, it's your musicality. You don't just play the notes, you interpret the music with a sensitivity you don't see every day." Olivia felt her heart race. Hearing this from a respected professional was even more impactful than the praise she'd received at school. "What does that mean in practical terms?" she asked. "It means I'd like to offer you some opportunities. First, how about we do a professional recording of some of your music? I have a studio here that can produce top-quality material." "My music? I don't compose." "Not yet," Helen smiled. "But I can introduce you to some excellent composers who work with me. Or if you prefer, we can start with interpretations of American music classics." "And after the recording?" "It depends on the quality of the material, but I can guarantee I'll have interested contacts. It could be an independent EP, guest spots at shows, or even interest from bigger labels." Olivia was still processing everything when Helen continued. "I'd also like to offer you lessons with some of the best guitar teachers in New York City. You already have an excellent foundation, but with professional guidance you could reach an even higher level. How much would that cost?" "Nothing for you. It would be an investment from the production company. I believe in your potential and am willing to invest in your development." Olivia was speechless. The offer was far more generous than she'd imagined. "But is there any catch?" she asked, remembering Professor Michael's advice about reading between the lines. Helen smiled, seeming to approve of the question. "Smart to ask." "Yes, there is. If we invest in you, we'd expect you to give us preference in representing your career when you're ready for the next steps. It's an artist development contract." "What if I don't want to continue after a while?" "You can leave any time in the first 6 months. After that, there would be some contractual clauses, but nothing unreasonable. I can give you a copy of the standard contract to review at your leisure." Olivia nodded. The offer seemed too good to be true, but Helen seemed genuine in her intentions. "Can I ask you something? Why are you making this offer to me? You haven't even heard me play in person." "Good question. First, because I have 25 years of experience in this industry, and I know talent when I see it. Second, because your video had impressive organic reach. That tells me there's something about you that connects with people. And third, because I need fresh talent to keep my production company relevant." Olivia appreciated the honesty of the answer. Helen wasn't trying to romanticize the situation or make unrealistic promises. "What do you need from me now?" "A decision. If you're interested, we can schedule a recording session for next week. You pick 3 or 4 songs you'd like. To record, come here and we'll do a professional session. From there, we can evaluate the next steps." "What if my family is against it?" "Olivia, when do you turn 18? "Next month. Then legally you can make your own decisions, but I always recommend that young artists have their family's support when possible. It's a much easier journey when you have a solid foundation at home. My mom thinks music isn't a serious career. I can talk to her if you'd like, explain how the industry works today, what kind of opportunities exist, and the financial potential of a well-structured music career." Olivia considered the offer. Maybe a conversation with a respected professional could change her mother's perspective. "That would be great," she said. "Then let's do this. Take home a copy of our standard contract and some information. About the production company. Talk to your mom, and if she's willing, I'll schedule a meeting to answer any questions. How does that sound?" "Perfect." Helen stood up and went to a filing cabinet, pulling out a folder with documents. "Here's everything," she said, handing the folder to Olivia. "My card is in there too. Call me if you have any questions." "Thank you. Really. This means so much to me." "Olivia, one last thing. Whatever you decide about our offer, keep playing. You have a very special gift and the world needs to hear your music." Olivia left Harmony Productions' office with her head spinning. The meeting had gone even better than she'd hoped. Helen seemed genuine, professional, and invested in her growth as an artist. During the trip home, she mentally replayed the conversation. Some aspects of the proposal excited her, while others made her nervous. The idea of recording professionally and studying with renowned musicians was a dream. But she also knew accepting would mean confronting her mother and possibly causing a family rift. When she got home, it was almost 6 p.m. Linda was in the kitchen making dinner, still wearing her hospital scrubs. "How was school today?" Linda asked without looking up. "Mom, I need to talk to you about the meeting I had today." Linda stopped chopping vegetables and turned to Olivia. "What meeting?" "With the music producer, Helen Carter from Harmony Productions." Olivia, we talked about this yesterday. I know we did, but I want you to at least hear what they're offering. Olivia took out the folder Helen had given her and placed it on the kitchen table. They want to invest in my development as an artist. Professional recording, lessons with top teachers, all at no cost to us. And what do they want in return? That I give them priority to represent me if I decide to pursue music professionally. Linda picked up the folder and began flipping through the documents, her expression growing more serious with each page. Olivia, this is a professional contract. Do you realize what you're getting into? That's why I want to talk to you. Helen offered to explain everything in person, to clear up any questions you might have. And you think that'll change my mind? I don't know, but I think you should at least hear her out before deciding. Linda kept reading the documents, in silence. Olivia could see her mother was actually analyzing the content, not just dismissing it outright. These contract terms are complex, Linda finally said. Do you understand the implications of what's written here? Not entirely. That's why I think it'd be good for you to talk to Helen. Olivia, even if this is legitimate, even if it's a real opportunity, have you thought about what this means for your studies, for college applications? I have, and I think I can balance both, at least in the beginning. How? Recordings, music lessons, performances. When will you study? Mom, what if music is really my future? What if I can build a solid career in it? Linda took a deep breath and sat at the kitchen table, still holding the documents. Olivia, do you know why I'm so afraid of this path? Because of Dad. Not just that, because of everything I've seen in life. Talented people who ended up frustrated, broken, dependent. The artistic world is cruel, especially to young people who enter without experience. But there are also people who succeed, who build solid careers. There are. But for everyone who makes it, there are hundreds who don't. Olivia sat beside her mother. Mom, what do you want me to do? Ignore this talent everyone says I have completely. I want you to be realistic, to not sacrifice a secure future for an uncertain dream. What if it's not just a dream? What if it's a real possibility? Linda looked at her daughter for a long moment. There was something in Olivia's determination that reminded her of herself when she was young. When she too had dreams, she eventually gave up for security. All right, she said finally. I'll talk to this Helen, but with some conditions. What conditions? First, you don't drop out of school. Second, any contract you sign will be reviewed by a lawyer first. Third, at the first sign this is harming your life or your studies, you stop everything. Olivia felt a wave of relief and gratitude. It wasn't full support, but it was far more than she'd expected. I agree to all the conditions, she said. And fourth, Linda added, you promise me you'll keep your feet on the ground, that you won't get carried away by illusions or empty promises. I promise, Mom. Linda hugged her daughter, and for the first time in 2 days, the tension in the house eased slightly. When can I talk to this Helen? She said we can call any time to set up a meeting. Then call now. I want to settle this soon. Olivia took Helen's card and dialed the number. The producer answered on the second ring. Helen, it's Olivia. I spoke with my mom about our meeting today and she'd like to talk to you. That's wonderful. When would be convenient for her? Olivia glanced at her mother, who gestured that she was available. She can talk now if you have a moment. Of course, put her on. Olivia handed the phone to Linda, who stood and walked into the living room, speaking quietly. The conversation lasted about 20 minutes, during which Olivia tried to listen but caught only fragments. When Linda returned to the kitchen and handed back the phone, her expression was thoughtful. So? Olivia asked eagerly. She seems serious and professional. She explained how the music industry works, what kind of investment they make, what the expectations are. I scheduled an in-person meeting for Saturday morning. Will you accept the offer? I'll hear everything she has to say before deciding. But Olivia, even if I agree, it'll be with great caution and many conditions. I understand, and I'm already grateful you're even considering it. Don't thank me yet. We don't know how this will end. The rest of the week flew by. At school, Olivia kept receiving attention because of the viral video, which had already surpassed 100,000 views. Professor Michael greeted her warmly every class, and she noticed he was making a conscious effort to make his lessons more inclusive and respectful. Samantha and Jennifer were excited about the developments in Olivia's life and bombarded her with questions about the meeting and future plans. She shared what she could, but kept some details secret until she was sure how things would unfold. On Friday, Brittany Parker approached her again during the break. "So, Olivia, have you decided what to do with the opportunities coming your way?" "I'm still considering," Olivia replied diplomatically. "My father is still interested in talking to you if you want other options." "Thank you, Brittany. If I need to, I'll reach out. Just don't take too long to decide. These opportunities have an expiration date, you know." There was something in the way Brittany spoke that bothered Olivia. It felt more like a veiled threat than friendly advice. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now continuing. On Saturday morning, Olivia and Linda headed to the Harmony Productions office. Linda had dressed carefully, wearing a formal outfit she saved for special occasions. She was clearly nervous, but determined to fully understand the situation before making any decisions. Helen greeted them personally and conducted the meeting with utmost professionalism. She explained in detail how an artist development contract worked, the typical investments the production company made, how financial returns were divided, and the expectations and responsibilities of both parties. "Mrs. Johnson, I understand your concerns," Helen said after answering several technical questions. "As a mother, it's natural to want to protect your daughter, but I can assure you we only work with fair and transparent contracts. And if Olivia wants to leave the contract after a few months, for the first 6 months she can leave without any penalties. After that, there would be some clauses protecting our investment, but nothing that would harm her financially or professionally." "What about her studies?" "All our recording and lesson schedules are flexible. We understand young artists have other priorities and always accommodate those needs." Linda continued asking questions for nearly an hour, covering every possible aspect of the contract and the music career. Olivia noticed her mother was genuinely trying to understand the situation, not just looking for reasons to reject the offer. "Helen, can I be frank with you?" Linda finally said. "Please. My biggest concern isn't the contract or your company. It's Olivia giving up a safe path for something uncertain. How do you respond to that?" Helen smiled understandingly. "Mrs. Johnson, let me tell you something I've learned in 25 years in this business. Talent like Olivia's doesn't come along every day. It's rare, special, and wasting such talent would be a greater tragedy than trying and not succeeding." "But what if she doesn't succeed?" "If she doesn't, at least she'll have tried, and more importantly, she'll have developed skills and experiences that will be valuable in any field she chooses. Music builds discipline, creativity, the ability to work under pressure, communication skills. These are qualities that help in any career." Linda fell silent for a moment, processing the answer. "And you truly believe in her potential?" "Mrs. Johnson, I wouldn't invest time and money in someone I didn't fully believe in. Olivia has something special, and it would be a mistake not to give her the chance to explore that potential." After a few more minutes of conversation, Helen suggested they take an updated copy of the contract home and take a few days to decide. "There's no rush," she said. "I want you both to feel completely comfortable with whatever decision you make." On the way home, Linda was quieter than usual. Olivia respected the silence, knowing her mother was processing everything she had heard. "What did you think of her?" Olivia finally asked. "She seems honest and professional," admitted Linda, "and the terms she's offering are fair. But I'm still afraid, Olivia. Afraid of you getting hurt, of you being disappointed, of this negatively affecting your life." "Mom, any choice I make will have risks. Even following a traditional path, there are no guarantees. I know that. It's hard for a mother to accept her daughter choosing such an uncertain path. What if it's not uncertain? What if it's exactly what I need to do?" Linda looked at her daughter and saw something that painfully reminded her of herself when she was young. The passion, the determination, the dreams still intact. "All right," she said after a long silence. "If this is what you want, we'll try." "Really? Really? But with all the conditions we discussed. And at the first sign of trouble, we stop everything." Olivia hugged her mother with tears in her eyes. It was more support than she had dared to hope for. "Thank you, Mom. You won't regret it." "I hope not," Linda replied, returning the hug. On Sunday, Olivia called Helen and shared the decision. They scheduled the first recording session for the following Thursday. Helen also connected her with Richard Anderson, one of the best classical and contemporary guitar teachers in New York City, who would start giving Olivia lessons the following week. On Monday, Olivia returned to school with renewed energy. There was something different in her demeanor, a confidence that hadn't been there before. When she told Samantha and Jennifer about the weekend's developments, they were thrilled for her. "I can't believe this is actually happening," exclaimed Samantha. "It's like a fairy tale," added Jennifer. "Not quite," Olivia laughed. "I still have a lot of work ahead, and a lot could go wrong." "But at least you're trying," said Samantha. "That's more than most people have the courage to do." During music class, Professor Michael noticed the change in Olivia's behavior. "You seem different today," he commented after class. "I signed a development contract with a music production company." "Harmony Productions?" "Yes. How did you know?" "I asked around about Helen Carter after our talk. I only heard good things. About her, you made a good choice." "I hope so." "Olivia, can I give you some advice?" "Of course. Enjoy every moment of this experience. No matter the outcome, you're about to live something few young people get to experience. Soak it all in. Learn everything you can." "I will. And thank you." "For what?" "For reminding me why I fell in love with music in the first place. Your journey has made me reevaluate a lot about my own relationship with music." Olivia was surprised by the admission. "Professor, you should start performing professionally again." "Who knows? Maybe it's not too late." On Thursday, Olivia arrived at Harmony Productions studio with a mix of nerves and excitement. She had chosen 4 songs to record: Song of the Spirits, which she had played at school, Outlaw's Lament by Frank Rivers, White Wing by Lewis Gordon, and What Is It, What Is It, also by Gordon. Helen introduced her to Robert Smith, the sound engineer in charge of the recording, and to Brittany Parker, an experienced musician who would handle the arrangements and accompany Olivia during the sessions. "First professional recording?" Robert asked as he adjusted the equipment. "Yes," Olivia admitted. "Relax, we'll take it at your pace. If you don't like something, we'll do it over until it's perfect." The studio was an impressive space, filled with equipment Olivia had only seen in online videos. There was professional soundproofing, extremely expensive microphones, and a mixing board that seemed to have controls for everything imaginable. "Shall we start with Song of the Spirits?" suggested Helen. "It's the song we've already seen you play, so you'll feel more comfortable." Olivia positioned herself in front of the microphone, adjusted the studio's borrowed guitar, so far superior instrument to what she was used to, and began to play. Hearing herself through professional headphones while playing was surreal. Every nuance, every ornament was amplified and clear in a way she had never experienced before. It was like listening to her music from a completely new perspective. "Perfect," said Ryan after the first take. "Let's listen." When Olivia heard herself playing with studio-quality sound, she was moved. It was her music, yet it seemed elevated to an entirely different level. "Is this how I really sound?" she asked, amazed. "This is how you've always sounded," replied Helen. "Now we're just capturing it with the quality your music deserves." They recorded the 4 songs over the next 3 hours. Some required multiple takes until Olivia was satisfied, but Ryan and Carla were patient and encouraging throughout the process. "What now?" Olivia asked when they finished. "Now Ryan will handle the mixing and mastering," explained Helen. "In a few days you'll have professional material you can use for promotion, performances, or even selling. And then we'll see what doors this opens." The following week, Olivia began lessons with Richard Anderson. The instructor was a 50-year-old man with a solid career as a concert performer and teacher. He had worked with many of America's top guitarists and had an exceptional reputation. "Olivia, "I'll be honest with you," said Richard after listening to her play during the first lesson. "You have some technical habits we'll need to correct, but your musicality is impressive." "What kind of habits?" "Posture, finger placement, breathing. These are things that develop when you're self-taught, but can be fixed with guided practice." "How long will that take?" "It depends on how much you practice. If you commit in 6 months, your technique will be on another level." The lessons with Richard were intense and challenging. He made her repeat passages dozens of times until she achieved the execution he considered proper. It was frustrating at times, but Olivia could already feel the difference in her technique within the first few weeks. Meanwhile, Helen began sharing Olivia's recordings with her contacts in the music industry. The response was overwhelmingly positive. Several producers and managers expressed interest in learning more about her work. "We have 3 invitations for you to perform at events over the next 2 months, Helen said during a meeting 3 weeks after the first recordings. An independent music festival, an evening of American music at a cultural center, and a showcase for industry professionals. What's a showcase? It's a special performance for music industry insiders, managers, producers, record label representatives. It's a chance to be seen by people who can open important doors." Olivia was excited about the possibilities, but also worried about how much time everything was taking. Even while keeping up with her schoolwork, she felt constantly stretched between classes, recordings, rehearsals, and studies. "Helen, can I be honest with you?" "Always." "I'm feeling a little overwhelmed. Between school, music lessons, and all these performances, I barely have time to breathe." "That's understandable. It's a big transition. Do you want us to slow things down?" "I don't want to waste opportunities, but I also don't want to compromise my studies. How about this? We'll only select the most important events for the next 2 months, and you focus on preparing well for them. Quality over quantity." That would be great. They decided that Olivia would only participate in the showcase, which would take place in 6 weeks. This would give her time to prepare properly while keeping her focus on her studies. But not everything was going smoothly. At school, Olivia began noticing changes in how some classmates treated her. Some seemed genuinely happy for her success, but others showed envy or distrust. One day during recess, she overheard a conversation between some classmates who didn't know she was nearby. "Olivia's gotten really full of herself since she became famous," said one. "It's true, she barely talks to us now," agreed another. "My mum said her mum lets her skip class for those music things," added a third. Olivia felt a pang in her stomach. It was true she had less time for casual conversations and social activities, but it was because she genuinely didn't have time, not because she thought she was better than anyone. She decided to talk to Samantha and Jennifer about it. "Do you think I've changed?" she asked at lunch. "How so?" replied Samantha. "Some people are saying I've gotten conceited, that I don't talk to anyone anymore." "Olivia, you're chasing your dreams," said Jennifer. "It's natural some people would be jealous. But are they right? Am I neglecting my friendships?" "You're busier, but you haven't changed as a person," Samantha assured her. "And true friends will understand that." Despite her friends' comforting words, Olivia worried about how others saw her. She didn't want her success in music to harm her personal relationships. The following week, she made a conscious effort to be more present in conversations with classmates and participate more in school activities. But that meant less time to practice guitar, and she could feel her preparation for the showcase was suffering. It was in this mounting pressure that the first major crisis of her new career happened. During a lesson with Richard, he noticed Olivia seemed distracted, and her playing was below her usual standard. "What's going on?" he asked after stopping a song for the 3rd time. "It's been hard balancing everything," she admitted. "Professional music demands total focus, Olivia. You can't do this halfway." "I know, but I also can't completely abandon my social life and studies." "Then maybe you need to decide what your priority is." Her teacher's words hit her like a punch. She was trying to balance everything, but maybe it was impossible without sacrificing quality in every area. That night, she had a long talk with her mother about the pressures she was facing. "Mom, sometimes I think I bit off more than I can chew." "Why?" What's happening? Olivia told her about the time struggles, the changes in social dynamics. At school, the pressure of preparing for the showcase. Do you want to stop? Asked Linda. No, but I want to find a way to do this without losing everything else that's important to me. Maybe you need to set clearer priorities. What's most important to you right now? Olivia thought carefully before answering. The showcase. It's the biggest opportunity I'll have in the next few months. Then focus on that. Let the other pressures wait. But what if the people at school grow even more distant? Olivia, if they're truly your friends, they'll understand you're going through a special moment in your life. And if they don't, perhaps they aren't real friends. The conversation with her mother helped Olivia clarify her priorities. She decided to focus entirely on preparing for the showcase over the next 4 weeks, maintaining only the bare minimum. In other areas, it was a decision that brought immediate results. Her lessons with Richard returned to their previous level, and she managed to dedicate proper time to rehearsing the songs she would perform at the event. But it also had social consequences. At school, she became even more distant from her classmates, participating only in strictly academic activities. Some interpreted this as arrogance, others as an unhealthy obsession. Professor Michael noticed the change and approached her after class. Olivia, are you all right? You seem very tense lately. I'm preparing for an important performance. It's a lot of pressure. Would you like to talk about it? Actually, I would. Could you give me some advice about live performances? Of course, what's the situation? Olivia told him about the showcase and explained it would be her first performance for an audience of music professionals. The key is preparation and confidence, said the professor. If you've rehearsed well, the rest is about believing in yourself. What if I make a mistake? Everyone does. What matters is how you handle it. If you keep playing naturally, the audience won't always notice. So any other tips? Yes. Connect with the music, not just the technique. Remember why you love playing guitar and let that come through in your performance. The professor's advice was valuable, but Olivia still felt growing anxiety as the showcase date approached. 2 weeks before the event, Helen organized a dress rehearsal at the studio with a small audience of people connected to the production company. It was an opportunity for Olivia to test her performance under conditions similar to the actual showcase. The rehearsal didn't go as expected. Olivia was visibly nervous, missed some passages she normally played perfectly, and her interpretation felt timid compared to what Helen was used to hearing. Olivia, what happened there? Helen asked after the rehearsal. I don't know. I was so nervous I could barely concentrate. It's performance anxiety. It's normal, but we need to work on it before the showcase. How? First, we'll do more rehearsals with a small audience to help you adjust. Second, I'll introduce you to a performance coach I work with. Performance coach? A professional who teaches artists how to handle stage anxiety and maximize their stage presence. Olivia began working with Mary Francis, the performance coach, the following week. The sessions were intense and revealed aspects of musical performance she had never considered. Olivia, when you're playing, where is your mind? Mary Francis asked during their first session. On the notes, the chords, are not making mistakes. That's the problem. Your mind should be on the emotion of the music, the story you're telling through the guitar. How do I do that? First, you need to understand what each song means to you. Not the official story behind the composition, but what it stirs in you personally. It was a difficult but revealing exercise. Olivia discovered there were emotional aspects of the songs she had completely ignored, focusing only on technical execution. Song of the Spirits, said Mary Francis. What does that song represent for you? It's the song that changed my life. Everything started when I played it. Then when you perform that song on stage, you're not just playing notes. You're telling the story of your transformation, the moment you discovered your own power. This perspective completely changed how Olivia related to her repertoire. Each song gained an emotional depth that hadn't been there before. In the following rehearsals, the difference was noticeable. Even when Olivia made small technical mistakes, her performance had an authenticity and emotion that weren't there before. Much better, Helen praised after a rehearsal 1 week before the showcase. Now you're telling a story, not just playing music. I feel like I finally understand what you meant about interpreting, not just performing. And that will make all the difference at the showcase. At school, the week before the showcase, was particularly tough. Olivia was clearly anxious and distracted, which affected her performance on a chemistry test. It was the first low grade she'd gotten that school year. "Olivia, I need to speak with you," said the coordinator, Dr. Margaret, after calling her into her office. "About the chemistry test? About your overall performance lately. Several teachers have noticed you're less present in class, and now this low grade. It's temporary. I have a very important performance on Friday, and after that I can focus completely on my studies. Olivia, I understand music is important to you, but it can't compromise your academic progress." "It won't. It's just this week." "I hope so. Because if this continues, we'll need to reconsider whether it's possible to balance these musical activities with your responsibilities as a student." The conversation with the coordinator added another layer of pressure to an already stressful week. Olivia left her office feeling suffocated by expectations coming from all directions. That night she had an anxiety attack for the first time in her life. It started as a tightness in her chest during dinner and escalated into difficulty breathing and a racing heart. "Olivia, what's happening?" Linda asked, alarmed to see her daughter hyperventilating. "I can't breathe right," Olivia managed between short gasps. Linda, with her experience as a nurse, immediately recognized the symptoms of anxiety and helped Olivia calm down with breathing techniques. "Feeling better now?" she asked after a few minutes. "I think so. What was that?" "An anxiety attack. It's your body reacting to too much stress. That's never happened before, because you've never been under this much pressure before. Olivia, maybe it's time to reconsider whether all this is worth it." "Mum, I can't quit now. It's Friday. Just a few more days. And if you have another attack, what if it affects your performance?" "It won't, I'll manage." Linda looked at her daughter with obvious concern. She was watching Olivia wear herself out physically and emotionally, and that scared her more than any financial or professional risk. "All right," she finally said. "But after this performance, we're having a serious talk about pace and priorities." On Thursday, the day before the showcase, Olivia had her last lesson with Richard. He noticed immediately that she was tense. "Olivia, you need to relax. Muscle. Tension will hurt your performance." "I'm trying, but I can't stop thinking about everything that could go wrong." "Let's do an exercise. Play Song of the Spirits, but close your eyes and imagine you're playing alone at home with no one listening." Olivia closed her eyes and began to play. Gradually, her breathing steadied and her posture relaxed. The music flowed naturally, like in the early days when she played just for pleasure. "There," Richard said when she finished. "That's how you need to play tomorrow, like you're alone at home playing for yourself. What if I forget that when I'm on stage? Then remember why you started playing guitar. It wasn't to impress anyone. It was because you loved music. Tomorrow, love the music again." The night before the showcase, Olivia could barely sleep. Her mind was racing, mentally going over every song, every tricky passage, every possible mistake scenario. Around 3 a.m., she gave up trying to sleep and went to the kitchen to make some tea. To her surprise, she found her mother already there, also sipping tea. "Can't sleep either?" Linda asked. "I'm too nervous. And see, come here." Linda hugged her daughter, and they sat in silence for a few minutes. "Mum, what if I disappoint everyone? What if I'm not as good as they think?" "Olivia, you've already proven you're good. Now just be yourself. There's so much pressure." "I know, but remember one thing. No matter what happens tomorrow, I'll be proud of you. For having the courage to try, for working so hard, for following your heart. Even if I mess up, especially if you mess up, because that would mean you had the courage to take a risk." Her mother's hug and words did more for Olivia's anxiety than all the relaxation techniques she'd learned. On Friday, the day of the showcase, Olivia woke with a strange calm. It was as if all the anxiety from the night before had turned into quiet determination. She skipped classes with permission from the coordinator, who reluctantly agreed it was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and spent the morning at home, lightly rehearsing and doing relaxation exercises Mary Frances had taught her. In the afternoon, she and Helen headed to the venue, a cultural center in downtown New York City. The showcase would take place in a small theater with about 100 seats, filled with carefully selected professionals from the music industry. "How are you feeling?" Helen asked during the ride. "Strangely calm," Olivia replied. "That's good, it means you're ready." The cultural center was an elegant, sophisticated space with great acoustics and professional lighting. Olivia had time to familiarize herself with the stage and test the sound equipment during the sound check. "Everything's working perfectly," the sound technician said. "You have a really clean guitar sound." As other artists did their sound checks, there were 3 performances in the showcase. Olivia watched the professionals arriving. They were well-dressed, carrying tablets and notepads, chatting in small groups about projects and opportunities. "Nervous now?" Helen asked, noticing Olivia eyeing the crowd. "A little. Are they important people?" "Some are. But remember, they're here because they want to discover new talent. They want you to be good." At 7:30 p.m., the event began. Olivia would be the second to perform after a contemporary American music singer in his early 20s who'd already released 2 independent albums. She watched the first performance from backstage and was impressed by its quality. The singer had incredible stage presence and vocal technique. For a moment, she wondered if she was on the same level. "Olivia, you're ready," Helen said, appearing beside her. "I think so." "Not think, no, you're ready. Now go out there and show them why we believe in you so much." Olivia stepped onto the stage and settled onto the stool prepared for her. The guitar was perfectly tuned and adjusted. The stage lights were warm and soft. In front of her, about 80 people watched in expectant silence. For a moment, the magnitude of the situation hit her like a wave. She was about to perform for some of the most influential people in American music. Her future could be decided in the next 20 minutes. Then she remembered Richard's words, "Play like you're alone at home," and Mary Francis's advice, "Tell the story of your transformation." Olivia adjusted her guitar, looked at the audience and smiled. "Good evening," she said, her voice clear and confident. "I'm Olivia Johnson, and I'll be playing some songs that have been part of my journey so far." She positioned her fingers on the guitar neck and began Song of the Spirits. From the very first notes, something magical happened. All the tension disappeared. Olivia was no longer thinking about the audience, the important professionals, or the opportunities at stake. She was simply playing music, the thing she loved most in the world. Her performance was perfect. Not technically perfect. There were a few small slips, but emotionally perfect. Every note carried the passion that had brought her there. Every musical phrase told part of her story. When she finished the first song, the silence that followed was different from the initial silence. It was a silence of admiration, of people who had just witnessed something special. The applause that came next was warm and genuine. Olivia continued with White Wing, then Outlaw's Lament, and ended with What Is It? What Is It? With each song, her confidence grew. With each song, she connected more deeply with the audience. When she finished her set, the applause was long and enthusiastic. Several people stood up. Olivia gave a simple bow and left the stage, still processing what had just happened. "How was it?" Helen asked as soon as she reached the backstage. "Incredible," Olivia replied, tears in her eyes. "It was exactly how it was meant to be. You were sensational, perfect." In the next 15 minutes, even before the showcase ended, several people approached Helen to ask about Olivia. There was real, concrete, immediate interest. "Olivia," Helen said after speaking with several contacts, "I have 3 meeting requests for you next week. An independent record label, a manager who works with contemporary American music artists, and a producer who wants to include you in a compilation album he's putting together." "Really? Really? Your performance was exactly what we hoped for." On the way home, Olivia called her mother. "Mom, it went well, really well. That's wonderful, sweetheart. How are you feeling?" "Relieved, fulfilled, like I've finally found my place. I'm proud of you. Thank you for believing in me even when I was afraid." "The fear is still here," Linda laughed, "but the pride is bigger." When Olivia got home, it was almost 11 p.m. She was physically and emotionally exhausted but also energized in a way she had never felt before. She took a long shower reflecting on the night's events. In just a few hours, she had gone from an anxious student to a professional artist with real job offers. But she also knew this was just the beginning of a long and complex journey. The decisions she made in the coming weeks would shape the course of her life for years to come. For now, though, she allowed herself to simply feel satisfaction for what she had achieved. She had overcome her fears, honored her talent, and opened doors that had seemed impossible just a few months earlier. On Saturday morning, Olivia woke up feeling like the world had changed. Not just her career prospects, but her own perception of herself was different. She had proven to herself and others that she wasn't just a student with a musical hobby. She was an artist with real potential. The phone rang during breakfast. It was Helen. "Good morning, our new star," the producer said cheerfully. "Sleep well?" "Surprisingly, yes, and you?" "Barely. I was organizing all the offers we got last night. Olivia, you have no idea the impact you made." "Can you tell me?" "The independent label wants to meet on Monday. They're interested in discussing a recording contract. The manager, Richard Montgomery, wants to talk about artist representation. And producer Charles Sullivan wants to include you in a special project he's developing." Olivia felt her heart race. These were exactly the kinds of opportunities she had dreamed of. But now that they were becoming reality, they felt overwhelming and scary. "What do you think I should do?" "Talk to everyone, understand the offers, and make informed decisions. But there's no rush. You're in a strong position now." "Helen, can I ask you something?" "Of course. Is this normal? Things moving so fast?" "For someone with your talent, yes. The music industry is always looking for authentic new artists. When they find someone special, things can move very quickly." After hanging up, Olivia told her mother about the offers she had received. "Are they good opportunities?" Linda asked. "Helen says they are, but I admit it's a bit overwhelming." "Want some advice?" "Always. Don't make any big decisions when you're emotionally worked up. Give yourself a few days to process everything. Then look at each offer calmly." That's what Helen suggested too. Then maybe it's the right path. Olivia spent the weekend intentionally relaxing. She went out with Samantha and Jennifer, watched movies with her mother, and played guitar just for fun. No pressure to perform or prepare. "So, how was that showcase?" Samantha asked during lunch on Saturday. "Incredible. Better than I ever imagined it could be." "And now?" Jennifer wanted to know, too. "Now I have some tough decisions to make." Olivia shared the offers she'd received, and her friends were amazed by how quickly things were moving. "Olivia, you could get rich and famous," Jennifer exclaimed. "It's not quite like that," Olivia laughed. "There's still a lot of work ahead and nothing's guaranteed. But at least now you know it's possible," Samantha observed. "That's true, and that changes everything." On Monday, Olivia returned to school with a different energy. The pre-showcase tension was gone, replaced by quiet confidence. She was fully present in class and in conversations with her classmates. "How was Friday?" Professor Michael asked during music class. "Better than I expected." "And what's next?" "I'm still deciding. I have a few meetings scheduled this week." "I'm happy for you, Olivia, and proud to have been part of your journey, even indirectly." During break, Brittany Parker approached her again. "Olivia, I heard your showcase was a success," she said. "Yes, it went well. My dad is still interested in talking to you if you want more options." "Thanks, Brittany, but I already have some offers to consider." "Are you sure?" "My dad works with much bigger artists than these independent producers." There was something about Brittany's insistence that bothered Olivia. She thanked her again and walked away, but the conversation lingered in her mind. That afternoon, she had her first meeting with the independent label. The company was called American Melody and specialized in contemporary American music. "Olivia, let's get straight to the point," said Mark Oliver, the label's artistic director. "We want to offer you a recording contract." "What kind of contract?" "A full album, 12 tracks. We invest in production, you split profits according to standard industry rates." "What does that mean in practice?" "You'd record your first professional album with us. get national and international distribution, and start building a solid recording career. It was a significant offer, but Olivia knew she needed to understand the details better before committing to anything. "Can I take the proposal to review it carefully?" "Of course, but we'd like an answer in 2 weeks. We have production schedules to meet." On Tuesday, it was time for the meeting with Richard Montgomery, the artistic manager. His office was impressive with photos of famous artists he represented. "Olivia, you have the potential to be one of the great interpreters of the new generation of American music," Richard said after hearing her play a few songs. "But you need professional guidance to get there." "What kind of guidance?" "Career, strategy, image development, networking with the right people, release planning. That's what a manager does." "And what would the deal be?" "I handle your entire artistic career, and I take 20% of everything you earn in music." "Forever?" "As long as we work together. The contract lasts 3 years, renewable for another 3. It was another significant commitment, and Olivia began to understand why Helen had advised her to take her time with decisions. The third meeting on Wednesday was with Charles Sullivan, the producer who wanted to include her in a special project. "I'm organizing a concept album about the new generation of American guitarists," Charles explained. "It would be a collection with 12 artists, each recording an original track or a unique interpretation of a classic." "And what would my role be?" "1 track on the album, plus participation in promotional shows and music videos. It's a great way to be seen by a larger audience without the commitment of a long contract." "What about the rights to the music?" "You keep the rights to your interpretation, and we share the album's profits proportionally among all participants." After the 3 meetings, Olivia's head was full of information and possibilities. Each proposal had its pros and cons, and she knew she needed guidance to make the right decision. "Helen, I'm confused," she said during a phone call. "All the proposals seem good, but they're very different from each other." "It's normal to feel confused. These are decisions that will impact your career for years to come. What would you do in my place?" "Olivia, I can't decide for you, but I can help you analyze each proposal objectively." "How?" "Let's schedule a meeting for Friday and go over each contract, each proposal. We'll look at the advantages, disadvantages, risks, and opportunities for each one." "That would be great. And I suggest you bring your mother. Important decisions are better made with family support." On Thursday, something unexpected happened. During a break at school, Olivia received a call from an unknown number. "Olivia Johnson?" said a male voice. "Yes. Who's speaking?" "My name is Andrew Carson. I'm a journalist for American Music Magazine. I'd like to interview you about your emerging career." "An interview?" "Yes. We heard about your showcase on Friday and the interest it sparked in the industry. We want to do a feature on new talents in American music." Olivia was surprised. She hadn't imagined her performance had reached beyond the professionals present. "How did you hear about the showcase?" "I have contacts in the music industry. Your name is being talked about in several professional circles." "And when would the interview be?" "Whenever is convenient for you. We can do it over the phone or in person if you prefer." Olivia scheduled the interview for the following week, after resolving the contractual matters she was facing. After hanging up, she kept thinking about how quickly her life had changed. Just a few weeks ago, she was an anonymous student. Now she was being sought out by journalists and had multiple professional proposals to evaluate. On Friday, Olivia and Linda met with Helen to review all the proposals they'd received. Helen had prepared a detailed comparison of each offer. "Let's go through them one by one," Helen said. "The record label offers more exposure and production resources, but also more long-term commitments." "And the manager?" asked Linda. "Richard is competent and has good connections, but 20% forever is a high percentage, and the control he'd have over Olivia's career would be significant." "What about Charles's project?" "It's the least risky option. Olivia would be part of something interesting without major commitments, and she could still evaluate other opportunities." Linda asked several technical questions about each contract, showing she'd studied the documents carefully. "Helen, what's your recommendation?" she asked. "Honestly, I think Olivia should accept Charles's project first. It's a way to gain experience and exposure without overcommitting. After that, the other opportunities will likely still be available, and she'll have more insight to decide. And you, Olivia? Linda asked. What's your gut saying? Olivia had thought a lot about it during the week. I think Helen is right. Charles's project would let me learn how professional recording works without locking into long contracts. Then it's settled, said Linda. But I want you to promise me one thing. What? Promise that you won't make any big decisions over the next 3 months without talking to me and Helen first. I promise. On Saturday, Olivia called Charles Sullivan and agreed to join the project. She'd record a unique interpretation of Thomas Jenkins's April Showers with her own arrangement. Excellent choice, said Charles. We'll start rehearsals next week and recording is scheduled for 2 weeks from now. Olivia also called the record label and Richard Montgomery, thanking them for their offers, but explaining she'd decided to start with a smaller project. If you change your mind in the next few months, our offer still stands, said Mark from the label. Same here, added Richard, but don't take too long to decide. Talents like yours don't stay available for long. On Monday, Olivia returned to school feeling she'd finally found a balance between her musical ambitions and academic responsibilities. Charles's project would require dedication, but it wouldn't interfere with her studies the way the other offers would. How was your decision-making weekend? Asked Samantha. Productive. I chose a project that lets me keep exploring music without abandoning everything else. Dion, are you happy with the decision? I am. For the first time in weeks, I feel like I can breathe easy. During music class, Professor Michael made a surprise announcement. Everyone, as you know, our classmate Olivia has been excelling in music. I'd like to propose she give a special presentation for our class, sharing her experience and playing a few songs. The suggestion was met with enthusiasm by most students. Olivia was slightly embarrassed, but agreed to do the presentation the following week. It'll be strange playing for classmates after performing for professionals, she commented to Jennifer after class. Why strange? Because now I know what it's like to perform professionally. It'll be hard to go back to amateurism. But you're not going back. You're sharing your experience with people who care about you. Jennifer's remark made Olivia realize something important. Even as she grew professionally, she couldn't lose the ability to play simply for the love of music and the people who cared for her. On Wednesday, rehearsals began for Charles Sullivan's project. The studio was even more sophisticated than Harmony Productions, and Olivia met other musicians who'd be part of the album. Olivia, I'd like you to meet Marina Roberts, said Charles, introducing a guitarist around 25 years old. She's also part of the project. Marina was an experienced musician who had already released 2 solo albums and had an established career. I've heard wonderful things about you, Marina said after the introductions. I heard you made quite an impression at last week's showcase. Thank you, I'm still learning how all this works. That's normal. The important thing is to keep your feet on the ground and stay focused on the music. The rest will follow. During rehearsal, Olivia worked on her interpretation of April Showers with Charles and an arranger. They were creating a version that highlighted the nuances of solo guitar, different from the more well-known renditions of the song. Olivia, I want you to put your musical personality into this interpretation, said Charles. Don't play it like Thomas Jenkins would. Play it like Olivia Johnson would. It was an interesting challenge, honoring the original song while imprinting her own artistic identity. How do I do that? Think about what this song means to you. What emotions does it bring up? What images come to mind when you hear it? Olivia closed her eyes and let the music carry her. April Showers always made her think of new beginnings, of cycles closing and opening, of transformation. It was exactly what she was experiencing. When she played the song with that perspective, the difference was immediate. Her interpretation gained a hopeful melancholy that wasn't present in traditional versions. Perfect, said Charles. That's what I want on the album. The rehearsals lasted a week, during which Olivia learned a lot about arrangements, music production, and studio dynamics. It was a completely different world from playing alone at home. Charles, can I ask you something? She said during a break. Of course. How do you decide which artist to include in a project like this? I look for people who have something unique to say through music. Technique can be learned, but authenticity is something you either have or you don't. And do you think I have it? Olivia, if I didn't, you wouldn't be here. The official recording took place the following Friday. Olivia arrived at the studio early, anxious but confident. She had rehearsed her interpretation dozens of times and felt prepared. Ready to make history? Charles asked when she arrived. I think so. Not think, you know. Today, you're recording your first professional song. The recording took all morning. Olivia did several takes until she achieved a performance that satisfied both her and Charles. It was different from her previous recordings with Helen. There was more pressure but also more technical support. So, how did it turn out? She asked after the final take. Let's listen. When Charles played the final recording through the studio monitors, Olivia was moved. It was her music, but elevated to a level of quality that surpassed anything she had done before. It's ready for the world, Charles declared. When will the album be released? In 2 months. We'll have a launch event with all the participants performing live. And after that? After that, we'll see what doors this opens for you. On Saturday, Olivia gave a special performance for her class at school. It was a different experience from any other. Playing for people who had known her before, music became central to her life. As you all know, our classmate Olivia has been having incredible experiences in music these past few weeks, said Professor Michael as he introduced the performance. She's going to share a bit about this journey and play some songs for us. Olivia stood at the front of the classroom with her guitar. It was strange to be in the same space where it had all begun, but now as a professional artist with real experience. A few weeks ago, you all saw me perform for the first time. In this very room, she began. Since then, so much has changed. I've recorded music professionally, met producers and managers, learned about contracts and a music career. She played 3 songs, Song of the Spirits, which had started it all, her rendition of The Girl from Malibu, and her version, of April Showers. The reaction from her classmates was warm and genuine. It was different from the professional applause she'd received at the showcase. This was the affection of people who cared about her as a person, not just as an artist. Any questions? She offered after finishing. Brittany Parker raised her hand. Olivia, aren't you afraid music might interfere with your studies? I do worry about that. That's why I chose to start with smaller projects so I can stay focused on school too. But what if you had to choose between music and college? The question caught Olivia off guard. It was something she'd tried not to think too deeply about. I hope I never have to choose, but if I did, I think I'd choose music. It's where I feel I truly belong. After the performance, several classmates came up to talk and congratulate her. Olivia noticed the distance that had grown between them in recent weeks was fading. That was beautiful, Olivia, said a classmate, who rarely spoke to her. And thank you for sharing your experience with us. It's important to remember we're all part of the same class, Olivia replied, no matter what each of us is doing outside of here. On Sunday, Olivia spent the day at home with her mother, reflecting on the intense weeks that had passed and planning for the months ahead. How are you feeling about everything that's happened? Linda asked. Different, like I've grown. Up really fast. In what way? A few weeks ago, I was just a normal teenager worried about normal teenage things. Now I'm making decisions about contracts, my career, my professional future. Is that good or bad? I think it's good, but sometimes I miss the simplicity of before. Olivia, you can always choose to go back to simplicity if you want. These music opportunities aren't a prison. I know, but I also know they might not come again if I let them pass. That's why you need to be sure this is what you really want. How can I be sure? By paying attention to how you feel when you're making music professionally versus when you're doing other things. What energizes you? What fulfills you deeply? Olivia thought about the question. When she was playing at the showcase, recording in the studio, or performing for her classmates, she felt a satisfaction she didn't experience in other activities. Music makes me feel complete, she finally said, like I'm doing exactly what I'm meant to do. Then you have your answer. On Monday, Olivia got an unexpected call. It was Andrew Carson, the journalist who had reached out the week before. "Olivia, I hope you're still interested in the interview we discussed." "Of course. When would work for you?" "How about this afternoon? I can come to your school, or you can stop by our office." "I'd prefer your office, if that's all right." "Perfect. 3 p.m.? Olivia got permission to leave school early and headed to the offices of American Music. It was a modern space, with photos of famous artists on the walls and a creative atmosphere. Andrew Carson was a man in his 40s, with clear experience in music journalism. He welcomed her warmly and explained the purpose of the article. "We're doing a series on new talents in American music, young artists making waves in the professional scene. And how did you hear about me? As I mentioned on the phone, I have contacts in the industry. Your name is being mentioned in various circles. From what I've heard, your journey is interesting. From an anonymous student to a professional artist in just a matter of weeks." The interview lasted about an hour, during which Andrew asked questions about your musical background, your influences, your future plans, and your perspective on contemporary American music. "One last question, Olivia. What advice would you give to other young people who have musical talent but don't know how to start a professional career?" "That they practice a lot, study everything they can about music, and most importantly, that they have the courage to share their work. Sometimes opportunities come at the most unexpected moments, like what happened to you." "Exactly. I never imagined that playing guitar at school could lead to all this." After the interview, Andrew said the piece would be published in the next issue of the magazine, which would come out in 2 weeks. "Can I send you a copy before publication so you can approve the quotes?" "That would be great." On the way back home, Olivia reflected on how her life was changing. Giving interviews to specialized magazines was something she associated with established artists, not someone who had just started their career a few weeks ago. That night, she had a long phone conversation with Helen about the next steps in her career. "Charles's album will be released in 6 weeks, Helen said. "That'll give you a lot of exposure. And after that, it depends on the response. If your track is well received, there will definitely be more opportunities." "What kind of opportunities?" "Invitations to perform, maybe renewed interest from the record label, the possibility of recording a solo album." "Helen, can I ask you a personal question?" "Of course. Do you think I'm moving too fast? Sometimes I feel like I should be enjoying the process more instead of always thinking about what comes next." "That's a very mature observation, Olivia, and I think you're right. It's important to balance ambition with joy. You're living a special moment. Try to enjoy each step." "How do I do that?" "Stop worrying so much about the future and focus more on the present. Enjoy the experiences you're having, the people you're meeting, the things you're learning." Helen's advice made sense to Olivia. She realized she had spent the last few weeks so focused on future opportunities that she had lost the ability to simply enjoy the present moment. "You're right," she said. "I'll try to focus more on the now." "Great. And Olivia, one important thing. Don't let outside pressure make you forget why you started playing guitar. It was for the love of music, not for contracts or recognition." That night, Olivia played guitar alone in her room for the first time in weeks, without thinking about performance, technique, or professional repertoire. She simply played songs she loved, the way she wanted to play them. It was a liberating experience. She remembered how music made her feel before all the professional pressure entered her life. On Tuesday, during a break at school, Olivia received a call that would completely change the course of events. It was Charles Sullivan, and his voice sounded worried. "Olivia, we have a serious problem with the project." "What kind of problem?" "The record label funding the album withdrew their support. Internal financial issues. The project is cancelled." Olivia felt like the ground had disappeared beneath her feet. "Cancelled? But I've already recorded my part." "I know, and I'm sorry. I'm trying to find another way to make the project happen, but it could take months." "What about my recording?" "You keep the rights to it. You can use it however you want. But the collaborative album won't be released as planned." After hanging up, Olivia stood frozen in the school courtyard. In a matter of minutes, her Next big professional step had vanished. She felt as if she was back to square one. Samantha found her like this and immediately realized something was wrong. "Olivia, what happened? You look awful." "The project was cancelled. The record label pulled the funding." "Oh, that's terrible. But you can look for other opportunities, right?" "Maybe. But this was the one closest to happening." The rest of the day passed in a fog of disappointment. Olivia tried to focus on her classes, but her mind kept drifting back to the cancelled project and what it meant for her plans. In the afternoon, she called Helen to tell her about the cancellation. "That's a shame, Olivia, but unfortunately, these things happen in the music industry. Projects get cancelled, funding gets pulled, plans change. So what now?" "Now we go back to the talks with the independent label and Richard Montgomery. Your options haven't disappeared." "But what if they're no longer interested?" "We'll find out. Your talent hasn't changed just because a project fell through." But when Helen reached out to the label American Melody, she got a discouraging response. "They filled the spot they had reserved for you," Helen told her in their next call. "They signed another artist last week." "What about Richard Montgomery?" "I'll call him tomorrow. But Olivia, I need to be honest. In the music business, momentum matters. When you were hot after the showcase, you had options. Now it might be harder." The conversation left Olivia even more disheartened. She was learning that the music world was far more unstable and unpredictable than she had imagined. That evening at dinner, she told her mother about the day's developments. "I'm so sorry, honey," Linda said. "I know how excited you were about this project. Mom, do you think it's a sign that maybe music isn't a viable career after all?" Linda chose her words carefully. "I think it's a reminder that any career has ups and downs, especially a creative one like music. But maybe you were right from the start. Maybe I should focus on something more stable." "Olivia, one cancelled project doesn't erase your talent. You're still the same person who wowed a theater full of professionals 2 weeks ago. But what if no other opportunities come? Then you create your own, or find other ways to use your gift." On Wednesday, Helen called with news about Richard Montgomery. "I spoke with him, and unfortunately he's already taken on other commitments. He said maybe we can talk again in a few months." "So it's all over?" "It's not all over. But it means we'll have to be more creative and patient. What do you suggest? That we keep building your portfolio? More recordings, maybe some small gigs, growing a fan base. Success in music rarely happens overnight, even for those with talent, especially for those with talent, because real talent doesn't rely just on luck or timing. They find ways to express themselves no matter the circumstances." Helen's words were comforting, but Olivia still felt discouraged. She'd had a taste of professional success, and now it seemed she was back at the beginning. At school, things were getting complicated too. The coordinator, Dr. Margaret Williams, called her in for a talk on Thursday. "Olivia, I've received some reports about your recent academic performance." "What kind of reports?" "Your chemistry grade wasn't good, you missed some assignment deadlines, and some teachers noticed you seemed distracted." "It's temporary. I'm going through some adjustments with my music projects." "Olivia, I need to be clear. If your academic performance continues to decline, we'll have to have a serious conversation about your priorities." "What does that mean?" "It means you might have to choose between fully dedicating yourself to your studies or exploring other educational alternatives." The veiled threat left Olivia alarmed. The possibility of school trouble would add immense pressure to an already complicated situation. "Dr. Williams, can I have a few weeks to reorganize my priorities?" "You have until the end of the month. After that, we'll formally evaluate your academic standing." It was early March, giving Olivia about 3 weeks to sort out her professional and academic issues simultaneously. That afternoon, she had a long talk with Professor Michael about her situation. "Professor, can I ask for your advice?" "Always. I'm in a tough spot. My music opportunities are at a low, my school performance is slipping, and everyone wants me to make final decisions about my future. And what is your heart telling you?" "That I still love music more than anything, but that I might need to be more realistic about how to make it work in practice." "Olivia, can I tell you a story?" "Of course. When I was your age, I also dreamed of a music career. My parents were against it. The school pressured me to focus on academics and opportunities seemed impossible to reach. What did you do? I made the mistake of giving up too soon. I chose safety over risk, and not a single day of my adult life has passed without me regretting that decision. Are you suggesting I shouldn't give up? I'm suggesting you don't make permanent decisions based on temporary frustrations. You're 17. You have time to experiment, fail, and start over. But what if I ruin my studies for good? Olivia, you're smart. You can make up grades, finish high school, even go to college later if you want. But musical talent like yours, if you don't explore it now, you might never get the same chance again. The conversation with Professor Michael gave Olivia a new perspective. Maybe she was pushing herself too hard to make final decisions. Over the weekend, she had an idea. Instead of waiting for outside opportunities, why not create her own? Helen, she said during a call on Saturday, what if we organized our own events? Small gigs, independent recordings? It's possible, but it takes investment and a lot of work. I'm willing to work. What about the investment? We can start small. Maybe a show at a cultural cafe or a simple recording we can post online. Would that give me experience and exposure? Yes. And more importantly, it would keep you active musically while we wait for other opportunities. Then let's do it. All right, but on one condition. You sort out your school issues first. I can't help you professionally if you're not meeting your academic responsibilities. On Monday, Olivia implemented a strict personal organization plan. She created a schedule balancing studies, music practice, and rest. She also spoke with each teacher about overdue assignments and ways to recover her performance. The response was better than expected. Most teachers were willing to give her a second chance, as long as she showed genuine commitment. Olivia, you've always been a good student, her chemistry teacher said. I understand you're going through a rough patch. You can retake the test next week. Thank you. I promise I'll prepare properly. And I suggest you seek help if you're struggling with any material. Too much pride to ask for help has harmed many brilliant students. For the rest of the week, Olivia devoted herself intensely to her studies. It was hard to find time to practice guitar, but she knew she needed to recover her academic performance before focusing on music again. By Friday, she retook the chemistry test and earned a satisfactory grade. She also turned in all her overdue assignments and had productive conversations with her teachers about how to balance her activities. Much better, said the coordinator, Dr. Margaret Williams, when Olivia reported her progress. Keep this up, and we won't have any more issues. With her academic situation stabilized, Olivia could shift her focus back to music. Helen had managed to book her a small performance at a cultural cafe in Williamsburg for the following week. It's an intimate space, about 50 people, Helen explained, but it has an audience that appreciates quality music. What kind of performance? Solo guitar, around 30 minutes. You choose the repertoire. And the pay? Symbolic. It's not about the money. It's about experience and exposure. Olivia agreed to the gig. It was exactly the kind of opportunity she needed to stay, active musically while gradually building her career. Preparing for this show was different from preparing for the showcase. There was less pressure, but also less support. Olivia had to pick her own set list, rehearse on her own, and handle all the logistics. Samantha, Jennifer, can you come to the show? She asked her friends. Of course, Samantha replied excitedly. It'll be our first time seeing you perform professionally. Well, semi-professionally, Olivia corrected, but it'll be special having you there. The day before the show, Olivia received an unexpected call. It was Marina Roberts, the guitarist. She'd met during the cancelled project with Charles Sullivan. Olivia, I heard about your show tomorrow. Can I come? Of course. But how did you hear about it? Helen mentioned it, and I wanted to make you an offer. What kind of offer? I'm organizing a collaborative show with some emerging guitarists. I'd love for you to be part of it. When would it be? In 3 weeks. It's a bigger event, around 200 people at a theater downtown. And the terms? Each artist plays for 15 minutes. We split costs and revenue proportionally. It's a way for us to give each other visibility. It was exactly the kind of opportunity Olivia had been looking for, something she could build through networking and relationships, not just relying on big producers or labels. I'm very interested. Can we talk more after tomorrow's show? Perfect, I'll be there. The cafe performance took place on a Friday evening. The space was cozy with soft lighting and an intimate atmosphere. Olivia arrived early to test the sound, equipment, and get familiar with the setting. Nervous? Helen asked when she arrived. A little, but it's different from the showcase anxiety. It's more positive anticipation. That's good. It means you're playing for joy, not just pressure. The audience started arriving around 8 p.m., a mix of regular cafe-goers, Olivia's friends, and a few music industry people Helen had invited. When Olivia stepped onto the small makeshift stage, she felt a familiarity she hadn't experienced during the showcase. Maybe it was the intimate setting, or maybe it was doing this by choice, not obligation. "Good evening," she said, adjusting the microphone. "I'm Olivia Johnson, and I'd like to share some music that's been part of my journey." She began with Song of the Spirits, the piece that had started her entire professional path. But this time she played with a freedom and ease that surprised even herself. The audience responded warmly. You could see people closing their eyes and letting themselves be carried away by the music, others swaying gently to the rhythm, some whispering words of approval. Olivia continued with Outlaw's Lament, White Wing, and finished with her rendition of April Showers. With each song, her confidence grew, and her connection with the audience deepened. When she finished, the applause was long and enthusiastic. Several people came up to congratulate her in person. "That was beautiful, Olivia," said a woman in her 60s. "It's been a long time since I heard a guitar played with so much soul. Thank you, that means a lot to me. You're going far, young lady. Keep playing like that with your heart." Marina Roberts also approached her after the performance. "Even better than I expected," she said. "I definitely want you in the collaborative show. I'd love to be part of it. Let's set up a meeting next week to go over the details." Perfect. Samantha and Jennifer were beaming as they congratulated their friend. "Olivia, you were amazing," exclaimed Samantha. "It was so moving to see you play like that." "It's different from when you play at school," added Jennifer. "It's like you found your place." For Olivia, that comment perfectly captured how she felt. She had found her place, not necessarily in the traditional music industry, but in music as a form of expression and connection with people. The following Saturday, Olivia met with Marina to discuss the collaborative show. They met at a cafe near the city centre, and Marina explained more about the event. "The idea is to showcase different facets of contemporary American guitar," said Marina. "Each participant represents a different style or approach. And what would my role be? You'd represent the new generation of performers, people who are redefining American popular music through the guitar." "How many artists are participating?" 6 in total. You'd be the youngest, which is interesting because it shows the continuity of American musical tradition. "And how does it work financially?" "Each participant contributes a portion of the production and marketing costs. In return, we split the ticket revenue proportionally." "How much would my share of the costs be?" $400. "I know that might be a lot for a student, but it's an investment in your professional growth." Olivia did some quick mental math. She had some money saved from birthday gifts and weekend gigs, but $400 was a significant amount. "Can I confirm by the end of the week?" "Of course, but I'll need your answer by Friday to finalize production." That evening, Olivia talked to her mother about the collaborative show and the required investment. $400 is a lot of money for us," Linda said honestly. "But if you think it's worth it." "Mom, can I use the money I've saved?" "It's your money, you decide how to use it. I just want you to be sure you're not taking too big a risk." "It's a risk, but a calculated one, and Marina seems serious and professional." "Then trust your judgment." On Monday, Olivia confirmed her participation in the collaborative show. Marina was pleased and sent all the details about rehearsals, promotional schedules, and event logistics. The show would take place in 3 weeks, giving her enough time to prepare without compromising her studies. Olivia chose a repertoire that highlighted different aspects of her musicianship, a technical piece to showcase her skill, an emotional interpretation to display her sensitivity, and an original composition to reveal her artistic personality. "An original composition?" asked Helen when Olivia shared about the chosen repertoire. "It's an adaptation of a song I like, with my own arrangement. It's not an original composition, but it has my musical fingerprint." "Interesting. Which song?" "I Know I Will Love You" by Thomas Jenkins, but I made an arrangement that blends elements of coro with bossa nova. That could be an interesting differentiator. It shows you don't just interpret, but also create. Over the next 2 weeks, Olivia split her time between preparing for the show, maintaining her school performance, and some promotional activities Marina had organized. One of these was an interview for a local music blog. The interviewer, a young journalist named Peter Sanders, was genuinely interested in her journey. "Olivia, what stands out to you most about the new generation of American musicians?" "I think we're less tied to traditional categories. We can mix influences, experiment with arrangements, use tradition as a starting point rather than a limitation." "And how do you see the future of American music?" "I see a lot of creativity and diversity. This generation has access to information and influences earlier ones didn't. That could result in very rich and innovative music. Your future plans?" "To keep learning, playing, growing as an artist. I'm in no rush to reach any specific place. I want to enjoy every step of the journey." The interview was published a few days later and generated positive comments on social media. Olivia was learning that building an independent music career involved a lot of promotion and networking, not just musical talent. A week before the collaborative show, something happened that tested Olivia's determination again. Brittany Parker approached her at school with an unexpected proposal. "Olivia, my father finally made time to talk to you. He wants to make you an offer." "What kind of offer?" "A representation contract with his company. He said he can connect you with major record labels, not these small things you're doing." "Brittany, I told you I'm focused on other projects. But this is different. It's a real chance to grow fast instead of playing these little cafe gigs." The dismissive way Brittany referred to the shows Olivia was doing deeply irritated her. "These little gigs are part of my growth as an artist. I'm in no rush to get anywhere." "Olivia, you're wasting your talent. You could be in a studio recording for a major label instead of playing for 50 people in a cafe." "Who says playing for 50 people is less valuable than recording for a major label? Everyone knows the goal is to get to the big labels. That's how you build a music career. Maybe that's how you build one kind of career, but it's not necessarily the kind I want." Brittany looked visibly frustrated. "You'll regret turning down this opportunity," she said before walking away. The conversation left Olivia thoughtful. It was true she could be pursuing bigger, more traditional opportunities. But it was also true she was genuinely happy with the path she'd chosen. That night she talked about it with her mother. "Mom, do you think I'm not ambitious enough?" "Why?" "Brittany said I'm wasting my talent playing small shows instead of chasing major labels. What do you think?" "I think I'm learning so much from these small shows. Every performance teaches me something new about performing, connecting with the audience, being an artist." "Then you've answered your own question. But what if she's right? What if I'm missing opportunities by not being ambitious?" "Enough." "Olivia, ambition doesn't necessarily mean accepting every opportunity that comes your way. Sometimes it means having the patience to build something solid, even if it takes longer." "Do you think I'm on the right path?" "I think you're being true to yourself, and in the end that's what matters." The collaborative show took place on a Friday night at a theater in downtown New York City. The venue had around 200 seats and was nearly full. Olivia was impressed by the audience. It was diverse in age and clearly knowledgeable about music. Backstage, she met the other 5 participants in the event. They were all experienced musicians with established careers, which made her feel honored to be included in the group. "Don't be nervous," said Ryan Miller, a guitarist in his 30s who had already released 3 albums. "This crowd loves discovering new talent. What if I don't meet their expectations?" "Impossible," Marina replied. "You wouldn't be here if you didn't have the potential to impress." Olivia was the 5th to perform, giving her time to watch the other acts and get used to the energy of the theater. Each artist showcased a different style of American guitar music. There was classical guitar, jazz, blues, folk, and even some experimentation with electronic music. The diversity was impressive and enlightening. When her turn came, Olivia stepped onto the stage with a confidence that surprised her. The theater was hushed in anticipation, and she could feel all eyes on her. "Good evening," she said, adjusting the microphone. "I'm the youngest in the group tonight, and that gives me an interesting perspective on American music. I'll play 3 songs that represent different aspects of my relationship with the guitar." She began with her arrangement of "I Know I Will Love You." The version she had created kept the romantic melody of Thomas Jenkins, but added rhythmic elements of blues that gave the song a new complexity. The audience responded immediately. Murmurs of approval filled the air and people leaned forward in their seats, paying close attention to the details of her arrangement. The second song was Outlaw's Lament by Frank Rivers, played with flawless technique that showcased all the work she'd done with Richard in recent weeks. To close, she played Song of the Spirits, the song that had started her entire journey. But this time she played it with a maturity and depth that reflected everything she'd learned over the past few months. When she finished, the applause was enthusiastic and long-lasting. Several people stood, and Olivia could see genuine smiles of admiration in the crowd. "Thank you so much," she said, giving a simple bow before leaving the stage. Backstage, the other musicians congratulated her warmly. "Excellent performance," and Ryan said, "You have a very special musicality for someone so young. Thank you. I learned a lot watching all of you too." "That's what's great about these collaborative shows," Marina remarked. "Everyone learns from everyone else." After the show, there was a small reception where artists and audience members mingled. Olivia spoke with many people and received plenty of compliments and business cards. One conversation stood out. A man in his 60s approached her with particular interest. "Olivia, I'm Anthony Rivers, a retired music producer. I worked with several big names in American music back in the 80s and 90s. Nice to meet you. I wanted to congratulate you on your performance. You have something that's rare to see these days." "What's that?" "Authenticity. You're not trying to be anyone but yourself. That's more valuable than perfect technique or aggressive marketing." "Thank you. That means a lot coming from someone with your experience." "Olivia, may I give you some advice?" "Of course." "Keep doing exactly what you're doing. Don't rush and don't let anyone pressure you to change your style or approach. Contemporary American music needs authentic artists like you." "But what if opportunities take too long to come?" "The right opportunities will come at the right time. And when they do, you'll be ready because you've built a solid foundation." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and subscribe to the channel. It really helps those of us just starting out. Now back to the story. The conversation with Anthony was one of the highlights of the evening for Olivia. It was comforting to hear from someone experienced that she was on the right path, even if that path was slower and less traditional. On the ride home, Marina talked to Olivia about next steps. "What did you think of tonight's experience?" "Amazing. I learned so much and felt like I truly belonged to a musical community. That's exactly the feeling I want to nurture. Contemporary American music needs more collaboration and less competition. Do you have any similar projects planned?" "A few, and I'd love for you to join me in more events. Not necessarily just performances, but other artistic development activities." "Like what?" "Workshops, masterclasses, maybe even some collaborative recordings. I'm thinking of creating a collective for emerging guitarists." "That sounds fantastic. Then consider yourself part of the group." The Sunday after the show, Olivia got an unexpected call. It was Andrew Carson, the journalist who had interviewed her a few weeks earlier. "Olivia, I have news about the feature we did." "What kind of news?" "The magazine received several messages from readers asking about you after the article was published. There's a lot of interest in your work." "Really?" "Really. And I'd like to do a follow-up piece focusing specifically on your journey after the showcase. Would that mean another interview?" "Yes, but this time I'd like to include photos of you playing, maybe some recordings, a more in-depth feature." "When would it be?" Next week, if you're available. Olivia agreed to the new feature. It was another chance for exposure that could open doors in the future. On Monday, back at school, Olivia noticed her situation had completely stabilized. Her grades were good, her relationships with classmates had improved, and she felt balanced between music and studies. "How was the show on Friday?" Samantha asked during break. "Better than I imagined. I felt like I truly belonged there." "What's next for you?" "Keep doing these kinds of performances, building connections in the music scene, learning." "Don't you miss the big opportunities that came earlier?" "Sometimes, but I also realize I might not have been ready for them back then." "What do you mean?" "Now I have more stage experience, more maturity to handle pressure, more clarity about the kind of artist I want to be." In music class, Professor Michael made an interesting observation. "Olivia, I've noticed a shift in your musical approach these past few weeks." "What kind of shift?" "You seem more relaxed, more natural. Your music is flowing differently." "I think I've found a rhythm that works for me." That's what I wanted to say. Sometimes forcing opportunities can backfire. When you relax and let things flow naturally, your musical personality shines through more clearly. Do you think I'm on the right path? I think you've found your own path, and that's more important than following any predetermined one. During the week, Olivia did her second interview with Andrew Carson. This time he brought a photographer and recorded some clips of her playing guitar. "Olivia, how has your perspective on a music career changed since our first conversation? I've learned there are many ways to be a professional musician. There isn't just one path to success." "And which path have you chosen?" "The path of authenticity and gradual growth. I prefer to develop organically, maintaining control over my art and my life." "Isn't that too slow for someone your age?" "It might be slower, but it's also more solid. I'm building a foundation that will support me for a long time." "Any regrets about opportunities you've turned down?" "Not regrets, but curiosity. Sometimes I wonder what it would have been like to follow more traditional paths, but I wouldn't trade my current experience for anything." The article would be published in the next issue of the magazine, and Andrew promised to send Olivia an advance copy for approval. At the end of March, Olivia received an offer that made her rethink her decisions once again. Helen called with an unexpected opportunity. "Olivia, the record label that withdrew support from Charles's project has changed their mind. They want to revive the collaborative album." "Really? Why?" "Apparently they resolved their financial issues and realized canceling the project was hasty." "And is my spot still guaranteed?" "Yes. Charles specifically asked about you. He said your recording was one of the best in the project." "When would it resume?" "Within the next 2 weeks. The schedule would be accelerated to make up for lost time." Olivia fell silent for a moment, processing the information. A few weeks earlier, this news would have thrilled her. Now, she felt a mix of excitement and apprehension. "Helen, can I think about it?" "Of course, but I need an answer by tomorrow. They're in a hurry to wrap everything up." "Why am I hesitating?" Olivia asked herself after hanging up. The answer came gradually. She had found a rhythm and approach that worked for her. Returning to the project would mean stepping back into the world of high expectations, tight deadlines, and external pressures. On the other hand, it was exactly the kind of opportunity she had wanted at the start of her journey, and it could open important doors for the future. That night, she talked at length with her mother about the decision. "What is your gut telling you?" Linda asked. "It's divided. Part of me wants to accept because it's a real chance for national exposure. Another part is afraid of losing the balance I've worked so hard to build." "If you accept, what's the worst that could happen?" "That the pressure and tight schedule hurt my studies and mental health like before. And the best case scenario, that the album is well received and leads to other big opportunities. And if you refuse, I keep building my career at my own pace without major pressures, but maybe miss a once-in-a-lifetime chance." "Olivia, there's no right or wrong decision here, just different consequences. How do I choose then?" Ask yourself, which decision could you live with the consequences of, even if it goes wrong? Olivia spent the night awake thinking about her mother's question. By morning, she had her answer. She called Helen early. "Helen, I've decided to accept Charles's offer. That's wonderful. May I ask what made you decide? I realized if I said no, I'd always wonder what if. I'd rather try and handle the consequences than not try and live with the doubt. That's a mature decision, and this time you have more experience to handle the pressure. I hope so. I'm sure you do. You're not the same person you were a few weeks ago. Returning to Charles's project brought a different energy into Olivia's life. She was more confident, more focused, and better at setting boundaries when needed. Charles, I want to make it clear from the start that I need to prioritize my school commitments, she said during the first meeting after the project resumed. No problem. We can adjust all the schedules to accommodate your academic priorities. And if at any point I feel the pressure is becoming too much, I need the freedom to speak up. Of course, we want this to be a positive experience for everyone involved. The recording was rescheduled for 2 weeks later, giving Olivia enough time to prepare properly without neglecting her other responsibilities. During this preparation period, she received unexpected support from Professor Michael. Olivia, I heard you're participating in that collaborative album after all. Yes, they revived the project. How are you feeling about it? More prepared than the first time. I think the experiences of the past few weeks have given me more maturity. I'd like to offer you something. What? Extra coaching sessions, if you'd like. Specific techniques for studio recording, managing performance. Anxiety. You'd do that? It would be my pleasure. Consider it my contribution to your artistic growth. The sessions with Professor Michael were incredibly helpful. He taught her breathing techniques tailored for recording, ways to maintain focus during long takes, and methods to cope with excessive perfectionism. Remember, the goal isn't flawless execution, he said during one lesson. It's authentic interpretation. Small technical mistakes can even add humanity to the music. It's hard not to chase perfection when I know it's going to be professionally recorded. Technical perfection without soul is far less interesting than small imperfections with genuine emotion. A week before the recording, Olivia had a revealing conversation with Marina during a casual meetup. How are you preparing to go back to the studio? Marina asked. Differently than before, less anxious, more focused on the process than the outcome. That's real artistic growth. You're learning to trust your instincts. Marina, can I ask you something? Of course. Have you ever regretted a decision in your music career? Plenty of times. But I've learned that regret isn't about the decisions we make. It's about how we handle the consequences. What do you mean? Sometimes we make a choice that doesn't turn out as we hoped. But if we learn from the experience, if we grow as artists and people, then it wasn't a bad decision. And if we don't learn anything, that's the real problem. It's not the decision itself, but our attitude toward the results. The conversation gave Olivia valuable perspective on how to approach the upcoming recording. Regardless of the outcome, she was determined to learn as much as possible from the experience. The day before the session, she did something she hadn't done the first time. She set aside a few hours just to play for pleasure, without thinking about performance or recording. She played songs she loved, improvised freely, and reconnected with her original passion for music. How are you feeling? Her mother asked at dinner. Calm, prepared, excited. Quite a change from last time. Yes, this time, I know what to expect, and I know I can handle whatever happens. I'm proud of you no matter what happens tomorrow. Thank you, Mom. Your support means everything to me. The second recording took place on a Tuesday morning. Olivia arrived at the studio relaxed and confident, her music well rehearsed but not overworked. Ready to make some magic? Charles asked when she walked in. Ready to make music, she replied with a smile. The difference in the recording atmosphere was unmistakable. There was less tension, more collaboration, and a general feeling that everyone was doing it because they loved music, not just out of professional obligation. Olivia recorded her interpretation of April Showers in just 3 takes. The I chime first was technically perfect, the second had more emotion, and the third managed to balance technique and emotion perfectly. That's the one, declared Charles after listening to the third recording. Are you sure I can try a few more times? No need. You captured exactly what we wanted, your unique interpretation of the song with all your musical personality. When Olivia listened to the final recording through the studio monitors, she felt deep satisfaction. It was her music, her interpretation, her contribution to something greater. "How do you feel?" asked the sound technician. "Complete," she replied simply. After the recording, Charles explained the next steps for the project. "The album will be released in 6 weeks. We'll do some promotional events, including a special concert where all the participants will perform their tracks live. And after the release, then we'll see how the audience responds. If it's well received, it could open doors for future projects for everyone involved." "No pressure then," Olivia laughed. "Exactly, no pressure. The work is done. Now we just let the music find its audience." In the weeks following the release, Olivia managed to maintain a healthy balance between anticipation for the album and her other activities. She continued performing at small events with Marina and other musicians, kept her grades at school at an excellent level, and even found time to develop new arrangements of songs she loved. One significant change in her life was the improvement in her school relationships. Many classmates who had distanced themselves during the busiest period of her career now approached her again, showing genuine interest in her musical activities. "Olivia, can I ask you something?" said Ethan, a classmate who rarely spoke to her. "Of course." "How do you balance music and studies? I'm thinking of taking my band more seriously, but I'm afraid my grades will suffer." "It's about organization and priorities, and mostly about understanding that the two can complement each other instead of competing." "How so?" "The discipline I learn from music helps me with my studies, and the structure of my studies helps me stay organized with music." Conversations like this became frequent. Olivia realized that her experience, though unique, had aspects that could inspire or guide other young people with artistic interests. Professor Michael also noticed the change in Olivia and made a point to comment during class. "Olivia, you've become an interesting example for the class of how it's possible to pursue artistic passions without abandoning academic responsibilities." "Thank you. But I learned that through some mistakes too. And that makes your example even more valuable. It shows you can adjust course when needed." 3 weeks before the album's release, Olivia received a call that completely surprised her. It was Richard Montgomery, the manager who had shown interest months earlier. "Olivia, I hope you remember me." "Of course, Richard. How are you?" "Good. I'm calling because I heard about your project with Charles Sullivan. Congratulations." "Thank you. I'd like to talk again about artist representation. I think you've matured a lot since our last conversation." "In what way?" "You seem to have found your own style, your own rhythm. That's much more interesting to a manager than someone who's just starting and doesn't know what they want." "And what would be different this time?" "My approach would be less invasive, more focused on supporting the decisions you're already making rather than trying to steer you down a specific path." "Can I think about it?" "Of course. But I'd like you to seriously consider it. You'll need professional support as your career grows." After the call, Olivia was lost in thought. Richard's offer was tempting, especially since he was offering more autonomy than before, but she was also hesitant to add more complexity to her life just when she'd found balance. "What do you think?" she asked Helen during a conversation. "I think it's a decision you can postpone. There's no rush to have a manager right now. But what if it's important for taking advantage of the opportunities that might come with the album? Olivia, you've already proven you can create and seize opportunities on your own. A manager could be helpful, but it's not essential right now." "So you think I should refuse?" "I think you should make the decision when you feel ready, not when you feel pressured." The wisdom in Helen's advice became clear in the following days. Olivia realized she was considering Richard's offer more out of insecurity than real need. She called him a week later. "Richard, thank you for the offer, but I've decided to stay independent for now." "Can you tell me why?" "Because I'm still learning about myself as an artist. I think I need more time exploring different possibilities before committing to a specific direction. That's a mature decision, and my offer remains open if you change your mind in the future. Thank you for understanding." 2 weeks before, The album release, Olivia attended her first professional promotional event. It was a press conference where all the album's participants talked about their work and played excerpts from their tracks. The event took place in an elegant cultural space in Williamsburg, with about 30 journalists and music bloggers present. "What was it like working on this collaborative project?" asked one journalist. "It was an incredible learning experience," Olivia replied. "Working alongside more experienced musicians taught me a lot about professionalism and artistic collaboration." What are your expectations for the album's reception? I hope people feel the authenticity we all put into our performances. More than commercial success, we want the music to move people. Your future plans? To keep learning, performing, growing? I'm in no rush to reach any specific place, but I'm excited about the possibilities opening up. After the event, several journalists approached Olivia for individual conversations. She was learning to handle media attention naturally and authentically. "Olivia, you have an interesting approach for someone so young," commented a journalist from Rolling Rock. "Many artists your age are desperate for quick fame. Maybe it's because I started playing out of love for music, not a desire for fame. That gives me a different perspective on what success means." "And what does success mean to you?" "Being able to make a living doing what I love, connecting with people through music, continuing to grow as an artist. If that comes with public recognition, great. If not, it's still success to me." Her answer caught the attention of several journalists present, and Olivia realized her philosophy about her music career was becoming part of her artistic identity. In the week of the album's release, Olivia felt a mix of anticipation and calm. She was excited to see how the audience would receive her work, but she also knew she had done her best and was satisfied with the result, regardless of the reception. The album was released on a Thursday, with promotion across various digital platforms and some specialized physical stores. On the first day, Charles called with news about the initial reception. "The early reactions have been very positive," he said. "Your track is being especially praised by critics." "Really? What are they saying?" "That you brought a unique freshness and sensitivity to April Showers. One critic said your interpretation reinvents the song without disrespecting it." "Wow, that's incredible." "And there's more. Some radio stations have already expressed interest in playing your track." "Radio stations?" "Yes. Mainly stations focused on quality contemporary American music." It felt surreal for Olivia to imagine her music playing on the radio. Just a few weeks earlier, she was just a student who played guitar as a hobby. The weekend after the release, Olivia had an experience that deeply moved her. She was in a bookstore when she heard her rendition of April Showers playing over the store's sound system. For a moment, she froze, listening to her own music being played for people who had no idea who she was. It was a strange and wonderful feeling all at once. "This version of April Showers is beautiful," a customer remarked to the bookstore clerk. "Who's the singer?" "I'm not sure. It's from the new album that came in this week. Guitars of America, or something like that." Olivia smiled discreetly and continued browsing the books, savoring the moment of anonymity as her music played in the background. At the album's release show, which took place a week later in a mid-sized theater in downtown New York City, Olivia experienced something that changed her perspective on live performance. The theater was packed, with about 400 people. It was the largest audience she had ever played for. But instead of nerves, she felt an immediate connection with the crowd. When it was her turn to perform, she stepped onto the stage with a confidence that surprised her. "This song means a lot to me," she said before beginning. "It's about new beginnings, about cycles closing and opening, about finding beauty in life's transitions." Her performance of April Showers that night was unlike any she had given before. There was an intimacy and emotion that transcended technique. She wasn't just playing the song, she was living every note. When she finished, the silence that followed was almost palpable. Then the applause erupted, intense and lasting. Several people stood up, some with tears in their eyes. Backstage after her set, Olivia was approached by several people. "Olivia, I'm Anna Paul from the label Music and Art," said a woman in her 40s. "Your performance was sensational. Thank you. I'd love to talk about some opportunities we could offer. Bigger shows, festivals, maybe even a solo album. Can I reach out next week? Tonight I just want to enjoy the moment. Of course, here's my card. It was the first of several similar offers. Apparently her performance had made a strong impression on many music industry professionals in attendance. But the most meaningful moment of the night came after the show, as Olivia was getting ready to leave. An elderly woman, about 70, approached her. "Sorry to bother you," the woman said, "but I needed to tell you something." "Of course, go ahead." "I was a music teacher before I retired. I taught hundreds of young people over 40 years, and I can honestly say you have something very special." "Thank you. It's not just technical skill, it's the ability to make people feel something through music. That's a rare gift." "You're very kind." "I'm not being kind. I am being honest. Keep playing, dear, the world needs your music." The conversation with the retired teacher touched Olivia Johnson more deeply than any professional praise. It was a reminder of why she had started playing guitar, to share emotions and connect with people. In the weeks following the debut show, Olivia received several work offers. There were invitations to participate in festivals, offers to record, solo albums, and even interest from some brands in using her music for advertising campaigns. Instead of rushing to accept everything, she decided to carefully analyze each opportunity with Helen Carter and her mother. "Olivia, you're in a very good position," Helen said during a meeting to discuss the offers. "You have options, you can choose what aligns best with your goals. The problem is I still don't have complete clarity about my long-term goals. And that's okay. You can make short-term decisions that keep your options open." "How so?" "Accept some opportunities that give you experience and exposure, but without long-term commitments. That allows you to keep exploring different paths." Following this advice, Olivia agreed to participate in 2 music festivals in the next 3 months, a collaborative recording project with other young musicians, and a few performances at cultural centers. "What about the solo album offers?" her mother asked. "I've decided to postpone them for now. I don't feel ready yet to take on such a big commitment." "Aren't you afraid the opportunities might disappear?" "I am a little, yes, but I've also learned that forced opportunities rarely work out. I'd rather wait until I feel genuinely ready." The decision to delay solo album offers proved wise in the following weeks. Olivia realized she was still discovering her artistic identity and that it would be premature to commit to a long-term project. In April, she participated in her first music festival. It was a mid-sized event in a small town outside New York City focused on contemporary American music. The experience was completely different from any performance she had done before. There was a large, diverse audience, more experienced artists on the lineup, and an atmosphere celebrating American music. "Nervous?" asked Marina Roberts, who was also participating in the festival. "A little, but it's a good kind of nervousness." "How so?" "It's like being excited to share something I love with people who will probably appreciate it." Her performance at the festival was a success. She played for about 1,000 people and received an enthusiastic response. More importantly, she felt comfortable on the big stage and managed to maintain the intimacy of her music even for a larger audience. After the festival, a journalist from Rolling Rock magazine who was covering the event approached her for an interview. "Olivia, you stood out at the festival today. What sets you apart as an artist?" "I don't know if I have a conscious distinction. I just try to be authentic in everything I do musically." "Your career has had a meteoric start. How do you handle success at such a young age?" "I'm not sure I'd call it success yet. I'm just beginning to understand what it means to be a professional artist." "What are your future plans?" "To keep learning, experimenting, growing. I want to fully understand who I am as an artist before making definitive decisions about my career direction." The interview was published in the next issue of the magazine and generated quite a buzz. Olivia was learning that her thoughtful, unhurried approach to her career was becoming part of her public image. In May, she participated in the second festival, this time in the capital. It was an even bigger event, with national and international artists on the lineup. Sharing the stage with musicians she had admired for years was surreal. She watched performances by some of the biggest names in contemporary American music and absorbed everything she could about stage presence, audience interaction, and professionalism. Her own performance took place in the late afternoon, a time she discovered was ideal for her intimate style. The sun was setting, creating the perfect atmosphere for contemplative music. She played a set of 5 songs, including her rendition of April Showers and a few others she had developed over the past months. The audience responded warmly, and she could see people visibly moved by her music. After stepping off the stage, she was approached by Louis Charles Foster, one of the most respected music producers in the country. "Olivia, I'm Louis Charles Foster. Congratulations on your performance. Thank you so much. It's an honor to meet you. I'd like to talk about a project I'm working on, a concept album featuring the new generation of American music interpreters. Tell me more." It would be an album with 8 young artists, each recording 2 tracks. The idea is to showcase how the new generation is reinterpreting American musical traditions. And what would my role be? 2 tracks, 1 interpretation of an American classic and 1 original song, which could be your own composition or by a contemporary songwriter. When would this happen? Over the next 6 months, no rush though. I want each artist to have enough time to develop something truly special. Can I think about it? Of course, but I hope you'll seriously consider it. I think you'd fit perfectly with the album's concept. Louis's proposal was tempting. He had an exceptional reputation, and the album's concept aligned perfectly with what Olivia was exploring artistically. That night, she called Helen to discuss the offer. "What do you think?" Olivia asked. "Louis is one of the best. If he's interested in working with you, it's because he sees your potential. But it's a big commitment." "It is, but it's also the kind of project that can define a career. The question is, do you feel ready?" "I'm starting to think I'll never feel completely ready. Maybe the real question is whether I'm willing to grow through the process." That's a very mature perspective. "So do you think I should accept?" "I think you should trust your gut. What's your immediate reaction to the offer?" Olivia thought carefully before answering. "Excitement, nerves, but mostly excitement." "Then you already have your answer." The next day, Olivia called Louis and agreed to join the project. It was a significant step in her career, but this time she felt ready to take it. The project with Louis required her to compose an original song, something she had never seriously attempted before. It was a challenge that both excited and intimidated her. "Where do I even start?" she asked Richard during a lesson. "With emotions. What feelings do you want to express through the music?" "Gratitude. For the journey I've been on, the people I've met, the opportunities I've had." "Then start there. Write about gratitude, transformation, growth." "But what if I can't? Create something good." "Olivia, you've already created plenty of good things. Your arrangements of existing songs show you have a composer's sensibility. Now it's just about trusting that instinct." Over the next few weeks, Olivia worked on her first original composition. It was a slow, sometimes frustrating process, but deeply satisfying. The song that emerged was a reflection on personal transformation, finding the courage to pursue dreams and learning to balance ambition with authenticity. She called it Pathways. "What do you think?" she asked Helen after playing the first complete version. "It's beautiful. And most importantly, it's genuinely yours. It doesn't sound like anything I've heard before." "I don't know if that's good or bad. So it's very good. Originality is rare in music. Now I need to choose the classic to reinterpret. Do you have any ideas yet?" "Portrait in Black and White" by Thomas Jenkins and Frank Rivers. That song always moved me, and I think I can create an interesting interpretation. That's a bold choice. It's a very well-known and beloved song. Exactly why I chose it. I want to show it's possible to honor a classic while adding a fresh perspective. The preparation work for Louis Charles Foster's album took up much of Olivia Johnson's time during the rest of the school year. She managed to keep her grades at an excellent level while developing the 2 songs for the project. Her interpretation of Portrait in Black and White gradually took shape. She preserved the poetic melancholy of the original, but added subtle rhythmic elements that gave it a contemporary feel. It's interesting how you found an approach that's new yet still respectful of the original. Lewis remarked during one of their preparation sessions. "It was a hard balance to strike. I wanted to show my musical personality without overshadowing the genius of the original composers. You succeeded, and your own composition is coming along well too. Thank you. It's been a huge learning process. That's how it should be. True art always involves growth." In June, as she prepared for the end of the school year, Olivia received news that left her both excited and nervous. The collective album Guitars of America had been nominated for an American Music Award in the Best Instrumental Album category. "This is incredible," Helen Carter said when she called with the news. "You could be up for a major award at just 18. But it's just a nomination, right? It doesn't mean we'll win." "Of course, but the nomination itself is already significant recognition. What if we do win? It would be a big validation of your work. But remember, awards are a consequence, not the goal." The nomination sparked a new wave of media attention. Olivia gave several interviews and appeared on radio shows, always staying true to her authentic and thoughtful approach. "How does it feel to be the youngest nominee in the category?" a radio host asked. "Honored and humbled. I know I still have so much to learn, so being among artists I admire is a huge responsibility. Ernest, what are your expectations for the awards? No matter the outcome, I've already gained so much from this whole process. Recognition is rewarding, but the most important thing is knowing I'm contributing to American music." The awards ceremony would be in October, a few months later, giving Olivia time to finalize preparations for Lewis's album and graduate from high school. Her graduation was a special moment of reflection. She had started the year as an anonymous student and was ending it as a nationally recognized artist. More importantly, she had balanced her musical ambitions with her academic responsibilities. Olivia Johnson, the principal announced when it was her turn to receive her diploma. An exemplary student who proved it's possible to pursue artistic dreams without compromising academic excellence. The applause was enthusiastic, with many classmates standing to congratulate her, a stark contrast to the resistance she'd faced months earlier. After the ceremony, Professor Michael approached her. "Congratulations, Olivia. It's been a privilege to witness your journey this past year." "Thank you, Professor, especially for supporting me when things got tough." "You didn't need support. You needed reminders that you were on the right path. And now, what comes next? Now you keep being exactly who you are. American music needs authentic artists like you." During the July break, Olivia threw herself into recording sessions for Lewis Charles's album. They were long, meticulous sessions where every musical nuance was carefully explored. "So Olivia, your composition is turning out exceptional," Lewis Charles said after one session. "It has an emotional maturity that's surprising for someone your age. I think I wrote about experiences that made me grow up fast. That's what makes music authentic. When it comes from real experiences, people can feel it, and portrait in black and white. Your interpretation is finding the perfect balance between honoring the original and bringing something new." That's exactly what we want for this album. The recordings wrapped up in August. Olivia had created 2 pieces she was genuinely proud of. They were unlike anything she'd done before. Deeper, more complex, more artistically mature. "How do you feel?" Lewis Charles asked after the final session. "Like I've grown as an artist through this process." That's exactly what a good project should do. Growth, not just exposure. In September, Olivia made an important decision about her immediate future. Several universities had offered scholarships, recognizing both her academic performance and artistic achievements. But she decided to defer college for a year. "I want to focus entirely on music for the next 12 months, she explained to her mother. "After that, I can reassess whether I want to pursue a degree." "Are you sure about this?" "I am, and more importantly, do you agree?" Linda stayed quiet for a moment, considering the question. "A year ago, I would have been terrified by this idea," she finally said. "But seeing how you've matured, how responsibly you've managed your career, I trust your ability to make the right decisions." "Thank you, Mum. Your support means everything to me. Just promise me one thing. If in a year you decide you want to go to college, you won't let pride or outside pressure stop you." "I promise." In October, the day of the awards ceremony, arrived. Olivia was nervous but excited, wearing an elegant dress Helen had helped pick out. "How are you feeling?" Helen asked as they headed to the event. "Nervous but also grateful to be here. No matter the outcome, you've already won so much just by being nominated." "I know, but I'll admit I'd be emotional. Fair if we won." The ceremony was a grand affair, with many of the biggest names in American music in attendance. Olivia felt honored just to share the room with artists she'd admired for years. When the time came for the Best Instrumental Album category, Olivia's heart raced. "And the winner is," the host said after opening the envelope, "Guitars of America." For a moment, Olivia was in shock. She had won a major American music award at just 18. Charles Sullivan took the stage to accept the award on behalf of everyone involved, but asked each person to say a few words. When it was Olivia's turn, she stepped up to the microphone with tears in her eyes. "This award means so much more than professional recognition to me," she said. "It's proof that it's possible to chase dreams authentically, that we don't have to sacrifice who we are to succeed." She paused, visibly moved. "I want to thank my mother, who had the courage to support my dreams even when she was afraid, and Helen, who believed in me from the very beginning. To all the musicians who taught me that music is about human connection, not just technique." Her speech was met with warm applause. Many in the audience were clearly moved. "And finally," she continued, "I want to say to all the young people watching, never be afraid to be authentic. The world needs your music, the way you feel it." When she stepped off the stage, Olivia was greeted by several established artists. Many said her speech had been one of the most touching moments of the evening. In the days following the award ceremony, Olivia received dozens of work offers. There were invitations for international tours, proposals from major record labels, and interest from film producers wanting to use her music. Instead of getting swept up in the excitement, she decided to take time to process everything and make careful decisions. "Helen, the number of offers I'm getting is unreal. That's the effect of winning a major award. But remember, quantity doesn't mean quality. How do I filter out what's worth considering? Ask yourself, does this opportunity let me grow as an artist? Does it let me stay true to myself? Does it excite me or just flatter me?" Following these criteria, Olivia narrowed the offers down to a few that genuinely interested her. Among them were an invitation to perform at an international music festival in Brazil, an offer to record a solo album with complete creative freedom, and a chance to collaborate on a project with artists from other Latin American countries. "These are all great opportunities," she said during a meeting with Helen and her mother, "but I'm still not sure which to choose." "Maybe you don't have to pick just one," Linda suggested. "Some could be done at the same time." "That's true, and others could wait for the right moment. The question is, which one excites you the most right now?" Olivia thought about it. "The solo album. I feel ready to fully explore my artistic identity." "Then start there." In November, Olivia signed a contract to record her first solo album. It was a deal that gave her full creative control, with an independent label that respected original artists. The album's creation would be a long process, 6 months of writing and pre-production, followed by 3 months of recording. It was exactly the pace Olivia wanted, thoughtful, deliberate, unhurried. "What's your vision for the album?" asked Robert Atwood, the producer chosen to work with her. "I want it to be a musical snapshot of who I am at this moment in my life. Not necessarily who I'll be forever, but who I am now." "And musically?" "Guitar is the foundation, but open to other textures when they fit. Honest lyrics, melodies that touch the heart, arrangements that serve the emotion of the music. How much material do you have so far?" 2 finished songs, several melodic ideas, and some poems that might become lyrics. "That's a good start. We'll work together to develop it all." During the summer of 2024, Olivia devoted herself intensely to songwriting. It was completely different from performing existing music. It required her to dig deep into her own emotions and experiences. "How's the writing going?" Marina asked during a casual meeting. "Harder than I imagined, but more rewarding too." "Hard how?" "It's too vulnerable. When I write, I'm exposing parts of myself I don't always want others to see." "But that's Exactly what makes music authentic. I know, sometimes it's scary. Fear is normal. It means you're creating something that matters. By February, Olivia had completed 8 songs for the album. Each was exploring different aspects of their journey: the discovery of talent, the fear of disappointing others, the joy of connecting with audiences, the pressure of external expectations, and the gratitude for the opportunity to make a living through music. "The material is exceptional," said Ryan, after listening to the compositions. "You've developed a very distinctive compositional voice. Do you think it's ready to start recording?" "Almost. I'd like you to write 2 or 3 more songs so we have options when choosing the final tracks." "What should I write about?" "Whatever comes naturally. The best compositions emerge when we don't force the process." During March, Olivia completed the additional compositions. One was about her relationship with her mother and how family support had been crucial in her journey. Another explored her hopes and anxieties about the future. The third was a celebration of American music and the influences that had shaped her style. The recordings began in April at a boutique studio in New York City. It was an intimate and welcoming space, perfect for the musical style Olivia was developing. "Let's start with Pathways," suggested Ryan. "It's the song that best represents the album's concept." Recording her own compositions was an intensely emotional experience for Olivia. It was different from interpreting other composers' songs. There was an intimacy and vulnerability that made each take cathartic. "Do you need a break?" Ryan asked after a particularly emotional take. "No," Olivia replied, tears in her eyes. "This is how the music should be recorded, with all the emotion." Over the 3 months of recording, Olivia grew significantly as an artist. She learned about the technical aspects of music production, how to collaborate creatively with other musicians, and how to maintain her authenticity, even in a professional setting. "How do you feel about the material we recorded?" Ryan asked after the final session. "Like I've created something truly my own. For the first time, I'm not interpreting other people. I'm being completely myself." That's exactly what we hear in the recordings. It's a very special album. The album, titled Pathways, was released in September 2024. Critical reception was overwhelmingly positive, with much praise for Olivia's emotional and musical maturity. A stunning debut album, showcasing a fully formed artist at just 19, as wrote a critic from Rolling Rock. Olivia Johnson proves that authenticity and talent still have a place in contemporary American music, commented another critic. More important than the critical acclaim was the audience's response. The album resonated with people of all ages, who connected with the honest, heartfelt stories Olivia told through her music. "Olivia," said Helen a few weeks after the release, "your album is among the best-selling in the American music category." "Really? Really?" "And more importantly, it's creating a genuine connection with listeners. People are sharing how your songs have moved them. That's all I ever wanted, for my music to make a difference in people's lives." In October, exactly 1 year after winning her first award, Olivia was nominated again, this time in the New Artist of the Year category for her solo album. The awards ceremony was a moment of deep reflection for her. In 2 years, she had gone from an unknown student to an established artist, but more importantly, she had managed to stay true to herself throughout the journey. "How does it feel to return to this ceremony?" a journalist asked on the red carpet. "Grateful and more confident than last year. I feel like I've finally found my voice as an artist." "What are your plans for the future?" "To keep creating authentic music, to keep growing as an artist, and maybe next year, start music school to formalize some of my knowledge." "Aren't you afraid formal studies might harm your natural creativity?" "No. I think knowledge never hurts talent. On the contrary, it can enrich it." Olivia didn't win the award that night. She lost to another very talented artist, but she didn't feel disappointed. She had learned that awards were a consequence, not a goal. "How are you feeling?" her mother asked after the ceremony. "At peace. I know I'm on the right path, no matter the external recognition." "That's impressive wisdom for someone 19. I learned from experience, and most of all, I learned that true success is being able to do what I love while keeping my integrity. In the following months, Olivia solidified her place in American music. She toured several cities across the country, always performing in mid-sized venues that allowed intimacy with the audience. Each show was a unique experience. Olivia had developed a special connection with her audiences, always talking between songs, sharing the stories behind her compositions, making everyone feel part of a shared moment. "Olivia," a fan said after a show in Denver, "your music helped me through a really tough time. Thank you for being so honest in your songs. Thank you for telling me that. This is exactly why I write music." In December, as she planned the next year, Olivia received a call that moved her deeply. It was the Dean of the University of Columbia offering her a full scholarship for the music program. "Olivia, we know you already have an established career, but we believe our program can further enrich your artistic development. It's a very tempting offer and flexible. We can adjust the schedule to accommodate your professional commitments. Can I think about it? Of course, the offer will stand whenever you decide." That night, Olivia talked to her mother about the university's proposal. "What is your heart telling you?" Linda asked. "That maybe it's time to formalize some of my knowledge, not to validate my talent, but to expand my creative horizons." "Then you've already decided." "I think so. I want to go to college, but at my own pace, without abandoning my career. I'm proud of you for following your dreams and never stopping learning." In January 2025, Olivia began her studies at Columbia. It was a new chapter in her life. But this time, she entered the academic world as an established artist, not someone still searching for her path. On the first day of class, she introduced herself simply as Olivia, a music student. Some recognized her, others didn't, but everyone welcomed her as just another person passionate about music. "Why did you decide to study after already having professional success?" a classmate asked during a break. "Because success doesn't mean you've stopped learning, and because I love music too much not to want to understand it in every possible way." During her first months at the university, Olivia realized she had been right about her decision. Formal studies didn't stifle her creativity. On the contrary, they gave her new tools to express musical ideas that had once been just intuition. She also got involved in collaborative projects with other students, always remembering that music is about community, not just individual expression. In March, during a composition class, the professor made an observation that stayed with Olivia. "The true measure of an artist isn't the success they achieve, but the authenticity they maintain throughout their journey." Olivia smiled when she heard that. It was exactly the philosophy that had guided her career from the beginning. After class, she left the university and walked through the streets of New York City, reflecting on her journey. 2.5 years earlier, she had been a high school student who played guitar as a hobby. Now she was an established artist, a college student, and most importantly, someone who had learned to balance ambition with authenticity. Her phone rang. It was Helen. "Olivia, I have an interesting proposal for you." "What is it?" "An American producer heard your album and wants to talk about taking your music to the international market. What do you think?" "I think it's an interesting opportunity, but only if it's done the right way, keeping control over your art. Let's talk about it next week. Right now, I want to enjoy the present moment." "What do you mean?" "I'm walking through the streets of New York City, observing the city, remembering how it all began. Sometimes it's important to stop and appreciate the path you've traveled before thinking about the next step." "That's a beautiful wisdom. I've learned that the journey is more important than any specific destination." As she walked, Olivia passed by a cafe where a young musician was playing guitar for a small crowd. She stopped to listen, remembering her own early performances in similar spaces. When the musician finished, she approached him. "Your music is beautiful," she said. "Thank you, I'm just starting out." "In a way, we're all always starting. The important thing is to play from the heart." "Do you play too?" "I do," Olivia smiled, "and I can assure you, you're on the right path." She left a generous tip and continued walking, carrying with her the satisfaction of having encouraged another young artist. That evening at home, Olivia picked up her guitar and played some of her favorite songs, not for an audience, not for a recording, just for the pure joy of making music. "How was your day?" Linda asked, joining her in the living room. "Perfect. I learned new things at school, walked through the city, met a young musician who reminded me of myself a few years ago." "And how are you feeling about everything?" "Grateful for everything I've lived, everything I've learned, all the people I've met. Any regrets?" "None. Not even the hard moments. They taught me as much as the successes." "And the future?" "The future will be what it's meant to be. I'll keep making authentic music, keep learning, keep growing. The rest will follow." Linda hugged her daughter, feeling proud of the brave and wise woman Olivia had become. "Mom," Olivia said, "thank you for believing in me, even when I was afraid. Thank you for teaching me that sometimes it's worth taking risks for our dreams." They stayed like that, embraced, listening to the sounds of the city outside and savoring the peace of a journey that had worked out, not because it had been easy, but because it had been authentic. Later that night, Olivia wrote in her journal a reflection on her journey. "I've learned that success isn't about reaching a specific place, but about staying true to who you are as you grow and evolve. I've learned that talent without hard work is wasted, but hard work without authenticity is empty. Most of all, I've learned that music is about human connection, and that an artist's greatest privilege is being able to touch other people's lives through their art." She closed the journal and got ready for bed, knowing tomorrow would bring new opportunities to grow, learn, and share her music with the world. Outside, New York City remained alive and vibrant, full of other young dreamers who might just be starting their own journeys of discovery. And Olivia knew her story was just one among thousands of stories of people who had the courage to follow their dreams. But it was her story, authentic and true, and that was all that mattered. End of story. Now tell us what you thought of Olivia's story and where you see us. Do you think she made the right decisions, balancing musical ambition with personal authenticity? If you have anything to share with us about pursuing dreams or overcoming obstacles, leave us a comment with sincere words. We'd love to read your thoughts and experiences. Thank you so much for joining us on this exciting journey. Don't forget to leave your like and, most importantly, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss other inspiring stories.